Maraming Pilipino ang nagtatanong ngayon, bakit mahalaga ang paglilitis na ito? Ano ang kaugnayan nito sa buhay ng ordinaryong Pilipino? Lubos po naming nauunawaan ang mga tanong na yan. Sa katunayan, may isang driver na nagtatanong, paano sasapat ang kita sa pasada upang mapakain niya ang kanyang pamilya? May isang OFW na nagtatanong, hanggang kailan kailangan lumayo upang mapaaral niya ang kanyang mga anak? May isang guro na nagtatanong, paano pagkakasyahin ang kanyang sahod sa dami ng utang na hinuhulugan? May isang manggagawa na nagtatanong, hanggang kailan magtitiis sa pansamantalang trabaho at kakarampot na sweldo? Sa unang tingin, maaring sabihin na malayo sa buhay nila ang paglilitis na ito. Ngunit hindi. Hindi po. Sapagkat ang usapin ngayon ay patungkol sa isang bagay na pag-aari nilang lahat. Ang kanilang pera, ang kanilang tiwala, ang kanilang karapatan na maningil ng pananagutan mula sa mga pinuno na kanilang pinagkatiwalaan. Natural lamang na magtanong ang sambayanan kung ang ordinaryong Pilipino ay pinapanagot. Bakit hindi ang pinakamakapangyarihan na opisyal ng pamahalaan? Ito ang dahilan kung bakit mahalaga ang paglilitis na ito. Hindi upang usigin ang isang tao, hindi upang maghiganti sa kalaban, hindi upang manalo sa politika, kundi upang sagutin ang isang tanong na napakahalaga sa kinabukasan ng ating republika. May saysay pa ba ang pananagutan sa ating bansa? Sapagkat ang kasong ito ay higit at lampas sa sino mang opisyal. Higit at lampas sa anumang partido. Higit at lampas sa alinmang administrasyon. Your Honors, the framers of the Constitution understood that there may come a day when extraordinary power would be entrusted to extraordinary office. They also understood that there may come a day when trust would be broken. And that is why they gave the House of Representatives the power to impeach and the Senate the duty to judge, not to punish political opponents, not to settle political scores, but to protect the republic itself. That is why the Constitution declares public office is a public trust. Ang kapangyarihan ay hindi pag-aari ng sino mang opisyal. Hiram lamang ito sa taong bayan. At ito ang dahilan kung bakit naririto tayo ngayon.
Matter yan. Ang nag-uusap po yan between intelligence service ng NBI, intelligence units ng AFP, intelligence department ng PNP. So nasa level po nila yon, sir.
Katulad ng grave threats pagkukontrata, inciting to sedition, seryoso rito eh. Gusto ko malaman kung merong effort ang ginawa ang NBI para makipag-coordinate sa AFP, no? Sa PNP, dahil ito pinag-uusapan natin pag-aalsa o hinihimok mo mag-umalsa. No? Meron bang gano'n na coordination na ginawa ang inyong opisina o ang NBI?
Ang alam ko meron yan, pero nasa level na po yan, sir, ng intelligence service namin, Your Honor.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Noted, entered into the records. We thank the distinguished Senate President. What is the pleasure of Senator Judge Ligarda?
Mr. President, Mr. Presiding Officer, just a few questions.
The lady has 2 minutes,
Yes.
ma'am. You may
Thank
proceed
you.
when you're ready.
This just to provide clarity for this representation and just a few questions to Attorney Lotok.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Attorney Lotok, sa paragraph 53 ng Affidavit of Investigation na iyong pinirmahan, sabi niyo po na the Vice President's statements were brought about or motivated by unpleasant circumstances occurring before November 23, 2024 press conference.
I believe, nabasa ko po yan,
Yes.
Your
Kasama
Honor.
ba ho dito yung pahayag ng Vice Presidente noong Oktubre 18, 2024?
Ye-
Is that
yes, Your
part
Honor.
of your affidavit?
Opo, Your Honor.
Yes. Bago naman po magsimula ang press conference noong November 23, mayroon mga pangyayaring kasama ang Chief of Staff, si Attorney Zulaika Lopez, na may kinalaman sa mga na-cite in contempt, sa camera, detention,
Opo.
medical emergency, at mga planong paglilipat
Yes,
sa
Your Honor.
hindi pa po ako tapos.
Sorry po.
Ng piitan sa Correctional Institute for Women sa Mandaluyong. Tama po ba na mga pangyayaring ito ay naganap ilang oras bago yung sinagawang press conference na pinakita ilang beses sa
Ye-
video?
Yes, Your Honor. Kasama ho yan sa
Yes.
investigation namin.
Kahapon po, sinabi po ng testigo, kayo po, na kinonsider ng NBI yung so-called bigger picture. I think those were the words that you used. Sabi niyo pa, you put all the pieces of the puzzle together in your own words.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Para malinaw lamang sa impeachment court, trying to absorb everything, saan po yatang bahagi ng affidavit of investigation nakasaad yung mga factual findings ng NBI tungkol sa mga pangyayaring November 22 and 23 bago yung press conference? I was perusing the affidavit of the investigation and I could not find the detailed circumstances leading to November 23 where admittedly there was emotions like an emotional hyperbole or an outburst, but the events leading to the press conference. Saan po yun sa inyong affidavit?
I think, Your Honor, nasa affidavit of transcription ho yan.
I
Transcribe po yan as
read it
attachment.
a few times. I could not see the detailed events leading to that. Having mentioned the medical emergency, the transfers to the Correctional Institute for Women, and so that the person who will read the affidavit will have a accurate, factual, and complete appreciation of the events leading to the press conference.
Ye-
Perhaps your view, having been the person who filed the complaint, may have a different perhaps appreciation from my view because I find it somewhat incomplete. And that is just my comment on this because you clearly said you put all the pieces together. And during that time, alam ba ninyo na habang sinasagawa ng NBI ang investigasyong ito, may nakabinbin na direct assault, resistance, and disobedience to authority at grave coercion laban sa Vice Presidente, kaugnay yung insidente nangyari sa ospital, sa Veterans Medical Center.
Narinig ko lang po, Your Honor. Pero
Yes,
hindi
you
ko po aware sa
heard
facts
about
na yun.
that, yes. And was there an investigation that was done regarding that incident?
I think ang focus po namin, Your Honor, is yung violation ng grave threats by the Vice President and inciting to sedition. Now, pagdating ho doon sa nangyari sa Vice Presidente, yun nga sabi ko, hindi ako aware sa kabuuan ng facts na yon. Baka yung ibang agency nag-imbestiga po doon. Hindi ako aware, Your Honor, doon sa circumstance na yon.
And so would the answer, Attorney Lotok, be a no? Were these taken into consideration in the investigation?
Again, Your Honor, nasa
Or would this be a yes, meaning it is contained in the affidavit, which I'm trying to look for as well?
Nasa affidavit of transcription po yung nangyaring usapan during that time. Nag-execute ho ng affidavit of transcription ng agent on case, Your Honor.
Actually, ilang beses ko po binasa yung affidavit, and what I see is there was a focus on the October 18. But on all the events on November 22 and 23, the detailed events leading to the emotional outburst did not seem complete. And that's what I'm trying to elicit from Attorney Lotok, our witness, because when we say that we had considered the bigger picture and all the facts and circumstances leading to the cases of great threat and inciting to sedition that were recommended, we want to understand the whole process and the factual context in which it happened. Because if you are to take snapshots of events and focus on October 18 and the press conference, it can shock any person. However, if you see as well the events leading to the emotions and the detention of the Chief of Staff and the Vice President herself, iba pa yung kasong ito, iba pa yung nadetina, iba pa yung sinampang kaso at pinagsarahan ng pinto ng ambulansya, kaya nagkaroon ng kasong ganon. I tried to read the affidavit a few times and could not find such a comprehensive enumeration of facts by the NBI, and that's why, thus this query.
Pwede na po, Your Honor.
Yes, please.
Meron hong affidavit of transcription kung anong nangyari, and then nag-submit po kami ng authenticated na video para makita ng mga senator judges natin kung what happened during those dates for appreciation po ninyo. So makikita ho rito kung ano yung nag-took place during the November 23, 2024 online press conference. But then again, as I've said, at in-explain ko na rin ito kahapon, Your Honor, if I may, kinonsider namin yung situation ni Attorney Zulaika Lopez. Nakita namin yung complaint niya, yung reklamo niya, yung health condition na sinasabi niya. Sinama din po namin yon na ano ba yung nangyari. Taking all the situations or the facts and circumstances attendant to that event, hindi ho siya yung the fact na nag-utter ang Vice President ng grave threats against the three. Despite of the fact na merong emotional situation na gano'n, hindi rin ho na-alter na merong violation na ginawa yung Vice President during that online press conference. And as a matter of fact, even before that emotional situation, maliwanag ho doon sa utterances, even before that emotional situation, sinasabi ho doon sa utterances, meron na akong kinausap. So nag-trigger na ho yun, ma'am. Meron na akong kinausap na isang tao na papatay sa presidente, sa First Lady, at doon po sa Speaker of the House. So, kahit sinama po namin siya to consider everything, again, Your Honor, hindi ho na bago yung utterances na ginawa ng Vice President. Hindi rin ho na bago na Yung instruction niya is relentless in killing the tree.
Yes. Attorney Lotok, what I've been trying to ask is not just the utterances which we've watched several times, but all the events leading to the utterances, and that is what I want. I understand what you're saying, that there were attachments or transcription, but the transcription would not be considered an assessment or an investigation. These were perhaps attached as transcription. And you earlier said that the threats are circumstantial. So the and that is the reason why I was looking for that in the affidavit of the investigation. In short, para pong nakulangan ako, pero kung sinabi niyong inattach niyo yung transcript, so be it. But then, if you will read the 50 plus pages again of your that snapshots were taken focusing on the October 18 and the utterances, but there seemed to be events leading to it that may have not been included.
With the
But I will
indulgence of Senator
leave it
Judge
at that.
Legarda,
Yes.
kindly wind up, ma'am.
Yes. So the last question, thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Na-interview rin niyo po ang mga miyembro ng media and you asked them factual information. Did you also ask them about the emotional state ng mga kalahok sa media, yung mga pangyayaring naganap bago ginawa yung mga naturang pahayag? In short, not just the factual statement, but the atmosphere, the events leading to that Zoom press conference that led to the perceived or alleged utterances.
Wala po yan sa minutes of meeting, sa Q&A, wala po yan, Your Honor.
Should you not have asked the members of media and the others who were part of that so that you would have, in your own words, sir, the complete picture, so that everything is taken into consideration on why such a highly placed person would give such utterances, because such conditions existed that just might have elicited it. But you did not do that investigation or at least conversations with the members of media. I leave it at that. Thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you, Senator Judge Legarda. Senator Judge Pangilinan, you're recognized, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President.
And you may
Just,
proceed when you're ready.
a few questions on inciting to sedition.
Yes, Your Honor.
For the witness, kasi pinapaliwanag mo yung sinasagot mo yung tanong ni Senate President Win kanina, no? Nasa NBI ka na Cybercrime Division since 2018.
Yes, Your Honor. 2018.
So, naalala mo ba yung kaso ni Ronel Mas? Yung taga Zambales na nagkaroon ng Facebook post.
Yes, sir. Naalala ko po pero hindi ko kami may hawak ng case na yan.
Oh, pero
Opo.
kung maalala mo, dahil division ninyo ang nagsampa ng kasong inciting to sedition, no? Tama ba?
I-check ko yung record. Hindi po yata ako may hawak
Dahil,
ng case.
well, to refresh your memory, nag-post siya sa social media offering 50 million to anyone who would kill former President Duterte. At that time, he
Yes,
was
sir.
the president.
Yes, sir.
So,
That's the news.
you remember that?
Yes, sir. That's the news.
Oh. Tapos, inaresto siya. Sabi niya, I will give 50 million reward kung sino makapatay sa dating presidente. So, nakita ng inyong division na ito ay inciting to sedition. Tama?
Yes, sir.
And therefore, sinampahan siya ng anti-cybercrime law.
Opo, sir.
Meron ding isang kaso, 14 May 2020. Dito naman sa Osamis. Pero palagay ko police investigation ito, no? Pero same, Cybercrime Prevention Act, inciting to sedition, ginamit ang Facebook account, Joe Mark Medina, and posted that he would give 150 million to anyone who would kill then President Duterte. So ito rin, naging kaso ng anti-cybercrime law.
Nabalitaan din po namin.
Okay. So, dito sa dalawang ito, in other words, to explain inciting to sedition, ang ganitong mga remarks have the tendency precisely to if not attack the government, put it in mobilize individuals or people to go against government, tama?
Yes, sir.
So that is what you found in the earlier, in the later case of inciting to sedition that you have recommended for PI kay,
Opo, sir.
kay,
Yes, sir.
Vice President.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, yung isa sa mga heated arguments namin during that time nung ina-analyze namin yung case, nagtanong kami sa sarili namin, if we allow this unaddressed, yung pagganyan na nagbabanta sa buhay ng presidente, pag hinayaan lang natin at yan yung maging norms na ng ating society, kahit sino na lang po pwedeng gawin yon. At alam ho natin magkakagulo ho pag ganon at walang ang regulation at pag di ho in-strict yan, sasabihin ho ng mga tao, okay naman pala kahit
Lalo na ngayon
mag-threat
dahil
ka.
sa social media, no? Malaki ang
Opo.
impluwensya. Pag nakikitang nangyayari ito at hindi natutugunan,
Opo, sir.
sabi niyo may problem. Thank you, thank you. No more. No
Thank you po, Your Honor.
What is the pleasure of Senator Judge Villanueva?
Yes, Mr. Presiding Officer, just one question, quick question on this particular topic on inciting to sedition, if I may.
The gentleman may proceed.
Yes, again, let me ask the witness just to clarify the factual basis for the National Bureau of Investigation's possible inciting to sedition. No? We recognize, Mr. Witness, yung strong criticism of the President may fall within the realm of what we call protected political speech, and it's really a balance, and somehow yun yung nagpapa-confuse paminsan. Kailan nagpo-fall into grave threats, kailan nagpo-fall into inciting to sedition. Pero bilang investigador, ano po yung nakikita ninyo na sa mga pahayag at sa surrounding circumstances na naging basihan po ng NBI para tignan ito bilang posibleng inciting to sedition at hindi lamang ito pumapasok doon sa tinatawag na political criticism?
Yes, Your Honor. Well, una, kinonsider namin sino yung utterer. So, una, yung utterer, the Vice President, the second highest official of the land. Then, pangalawa, kinonsider namin ano ba yung mga in-utter ng Vice President. And then, pangatlo, ano ba yung surrounding circumstances na like naging reaksyon nung recipient nung utterances o threats. Nakita ho namin na kung pwede palang gawin ito ng isa sa pinakamataas na posisyon ng Pilipinas at hindi natin ito i-address, hindi natin i-regulate, pwede na rin po pala itong gawin ng kahit na sino. Remember, Your Honor, Vice President is kinukonsider ho natin na model bilang public official. So tinitingnan po natin siya kung ano yung actuation siya sa public, kung ano yung pakikipagrelasyon niya sa ibang public official. So again, Your Honor, nung makita ho namin yan, may effect po sa mga tao. Kung ang Vice President kayang gawin yan at wala namang nangyari, gawin na rin natin yung iba. Yung ini-explain ko nga kahapon, may pattern, may consistent siya, and the fact na bold yung mga statement, pupugutan ng ulo, this country will go to hell because the person na nakaupo is hindi marunong maging presidente. Yung mga factor ho yun, finactor in namin. Pag nakita ito ng taong bayan at walang kilos na ginawa yung gobyerno, parang domino effect po yan. Pwede na. So sunod-sunod na. Alam naman po natin ang nangyayari sa social media. So nakita namin na dangerous to, alarming siya. So definitely, nung nag-imbestiga ng NBI at nakalap niya lahat ng kinakailangang ebidensya, yung findings po namin, kasama po doon yung inciting to sedition.
Is it safe to say na yung pinaka-core nito is that when it falls under that category na it somehow steers public uprising?
Definitely, based on our investigation.
Yun
yes,
po yung
Your Honor.
core, would
Yes,
you say?
sir.
And do you use the same methodology as you use doon sa grave test? For example, yung 4 stages na binanggit po ninyo, identification, collection, analysis, legal evaluation, yung elements na binanggit nyo yesterday, yung factors considered, delivery, literal meaning, nature, relationship to the parties, blah, blah, blah. Ito ba?
Yes, sir.
Same?
Opo,
Same?
kasama po yan sa analysis namin na ano yung epekto nito sa publiko pag ito yung naging norms na natin.
So
at
this is
hindi
the
natin-
same na ginamit po ninyo?
Yes, sir.
And last but not the least, Your Honor, Mr. Witness, for purposes of investigating itong inciting to sedition, may we clarify, because it was, I don't know if Senator Bongo made mention about this. To clarify lang, is it necessary that someone was actually incited? Yun po ba, just for purposes of investigating itong inciting to sedition, is it necessary that someone was actually incited para mag-fall dito?
Well, ang basis po namin yung People versus Nabong, if I'm not mistaken. In order to be seditious yung speeches, it is not necessary na mayroong actual sedition. The law also penalizes or punishes those statements na mag-i-encourage to overthrow the government or to steer the people against the government or to disturb the peace of the community or to undermine public safety and public order. Yun
Thank
ho
you
ang naging
for the
consideration.
clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr.
Senator Judge Ejercito, thereafter Senator Judge Villar, Mark. What is your pleasure, sir?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Presiding. For just one question.
You may
for
proceed,
you,
sir.
Nabanggit mo kanina yung yung admission against interest. Maaari po ba niyong ipaliwanag para mas maintindihan po ng nakarami? At why did you rely on this if ever ito pong admission against interest?
Yes, Your Honor. Maalala po natin yung November 2023, yung utterances niya na that she had already contracted a person to kill the President, the First Lady, and the former Speaker, and that she instructed to be relentless. Itong utterance na to, instead na i-deny niya, which is definitely it should be denied kasi that's against her interest, instead na i-deny niya po yon, nung November 26, the video, nung tinanong siya openly and in public, kung sinabi niya yun, nireiterate pa po niya, Your Honor. In fact, inadmit po niya na, oo nga, may kinausap akong tao tungkol dyan. And in fact, sabi niya, may krimen ba? Ano ang nakikitang krimen doon sa may kinausap akong tao na pag namatay ako, patayin mo si BBM, patayin mo si Speaker, patayin mo si Lisa Marcos.
Was this, ito pong sinasabi niyong admission against interest, was this considered in your investigation?
Yes, Your Honor. Kasama po yun. Yun nga yung naging basis namin na aside doon sa sa utterances niya na no joke, kasi mukhang hindi, yung no joke, sufficient na ba na talagang seryoso siya? Nung makita ko namin yung video, na ni-reiterate pa niya at nag-admit siya, we concluded na seryoso ang Vice Presidente nung in-utter niya yun.
Thank you. No further questions, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Thank you,
Thank you
Senator
po, Your
Judge
Honor.
Ejercito. Senator Judge Mark Villar, you have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Just a brief question for the witness. You mentioned,
Opo, Your Honor.
thank you. You mentioned earlier that there are many factors that come into play when you decide whether or not to file charges regarding grave threats.
Opo,
Now,
yes,
there
Your
are many
Honor.
factors in how you decide what constitutes a grave threat.
Yes, Your
And I
Honor.
wanted to know, what weight do you give those factors? Are there certain aspects of a grave threat that you put more importance on, whether it's the type of threat or who the threat is made to? What does does the NBI give more weight to a certain element of
Yes, Your Honor.
threat?
It's a convolution of these factors na kinonsider namin. Una, yung delivery or manner in which the utterances were spoken, which is sabi ko nga, nasa atmosphere na kung saan furious and seemingly mad yung Vice President nung sinabi niya yon. And then, aside from delivery and manner, kinonsider namin yung literal meaning ng statement, which is, on its face, makikita natin na even before the press conference was held on November 23, 2024. In fact, even before the questions was thrown by Francis Maui to the Vice President, the Vice President had already contracted.
But is there a, what do you give the most weight to? I'm aware that you have different factors that come into play.
Kinonsider ho namin-
Is there a specific, because binanggit nyo po yung, halimbawa, meron kayong 2 tests for grave threat. Binanggit nyo po kahapon. I just wanted to know what is the basis for, or if there is a hierarchy in the level that in all these elements, if there is a hierarchy, what the elements are,
There's a
but is there a
hierarchy,
hierarchy in those whether or not when you decide on whether or not to file charges of grave threats?
Your Honor, it's a combination ng lahat po na factor po
So nothing is given more weight than not one in your past experiences. You've never there's no everything is equal. All these factors that you've mentioned.
Well, in this case, yung literal meaning, at the same time yung nature ng instruction.
Is it more of the type of the actual threat? If it's a death threat or if it's a halimbawa, kung sasabihin niya, whether it's a threat of, is the gravity of the threat a factor or is it who the threat is made to?
Yes, Your Honor.
Something that triggers your investigation more. I mean, what is there a factor that you place more weight to, or that you place more weight to, when deciding whether or not to file these charges?
Yung status ho ng nagsasabi nun.
Yeah, when you made the
yung-
decision, I was curious as to what factors did you put the most weight to?
Yung nature of the instruction as well as yung the fact na may kinausap na siya bago pa man siya tanungin. Yung po yung dalawa na yun, sir.
And these are defined, are these defined in any legal, or this is just purely the discretion of the NBI, or is there a particular definition in the law that would create a hierarchy of?
I would say it satisfies the elements of grave threats, Your Honor.
Okay, but it's not necessarily defined in the law. A lot of it is open to interpretation of the NBI.
Yes, Your Honor. Based on facts, nakita ho namin papasok ba yung elementong ganito, elementong ganyan, elementong ganon. Nung nagkaroon ho kami ng findings, nirefero namin sa DOJ. DOJ, sir, ito ang findings namin. Ano po ang masasabi nyo? Then nag-issue ho ng certification ng DOJ at ang sabi ng DOJ, certified, all of the elements required for the crime charged is complete. So pwede na tayo mag-proceed sa preliminary investigation.
Yeah, thank you. Importante po kasi na ma-define po natin kung ano po yung grave threat, kung ano po yung... and I just want to know what latitude does the NBI have in deciding whether or not to file a charge of grave threat.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, thank you
Opo.
very much, sir.
Opo, thank you, Your
Thank
Honor.
you, Senator Judge Mark Villar. Counsel for the respondent.
Just have last few
Sorry,
questions, Your Honor.
apologies. Senator Judge Erwin Tulfo. You may proceed when you're ready, sir. You have no more than 2 minutes.
Thank you. Just one quick question to our witness. Inciting to sedition po yung kinaso ninyo.
Opo, Your
Tama.
Honor.
Pero hindi ba nagbo-border ito yung inciting to sedition to propaganda? Kasi po ayon po sa diksyonaryo, propaganda is a form of communication that aims to shape the people's belief, action, or behavior. Na you say something para udyukan yung tao, para magalit. So, nagbo-border ito between propaganda and inciting to sedition. What made you say that this is inciting to sedition yung pinagsasabi ni Vice President Sara Zimmerman Duterte?
Again, Your Honor, we consider the elements ng inciting to sedition,
Okay.
one of which is yung whether the speeches disturbs the community. And then in-explain ko na po kanina yung mga comments. At the same time, yung responses ng recipients, gaya ng several government agencies and the President himself, as well as the Speaker of the House. And then, Your Honor, whether it would undermine public safety and public order, which is malinaw ho dun sa comments at reaksyon ng ating government agencies like the PNP, like the National Security Council, at ganun din po yung Presidential Communications Office. So, pinapakita ho nila doon na alarming yung situation, it's an active threat, at the same time, it's a matter of national security, at hindi ho ito dapat palampasin. In fact, may classification pa nga yung ibang agency natin na yung kinausap is assassin. Both the PNP and the PCO, sir. So, sila ho, nakalampag ho sila, itong mga government agency na to doon sa utterances na ginawa ng Vice Presidente. So, aside from that fact, nakita ho rin namin yung comments from social media platforms na meron ho talagang nabubuong magiging kaguluhan. Although, sabi ko nga po kanina, yung comments sa mga Facebook at social media platforms, hindi lang ho namin nakasama sa affidavit of investigation po namin, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Witness.
Thank you, Senator Judge Windulfo. Counsel for the respondent, for the continuation of your cross. I heard you say
Last few questions, Your Honor.
after the cross, before redirect, we shall pause for a 15-minute break. Counsel for the respondent may proceed.
Attorney Lotok, does a Filipino citizen have the right to express dissatisfaction with our government?
Definitely, sir.
This is part of freedom of speech, correct?
Yes, sir.
And as long as we do not commit an act to overthrow the government, this is allowed, correct?
It depends, sir, kung magpo-fall siya sa inciting to sedition,
Okay.
sir.
But in that press con, did VP Sara directly urge the public to overthrow the government?
There was no such kind of a statement, but there was a sort of tendency because of those utterances.
All right. She merely voiced out her personal opinion during the press con, correct? Opinions during the press con.
I cannot answer to that, Your Honor. Based doon sa nakalap namin kung ano hong nandito.
That's okay. So, and just like any other ordinary Filipino who has the freedom of speech, she should be allowed to do that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Unless we are under martial law again, she should be able to speak, correct?
I cannot speak kung yung situation na yan. That's hypothetical, sir.
Nothing further, Your Honors. Okay.
Thank you, Counsel for Respondent. Again, as stated by the presiding officer, wala pa kayong balak mag-break talaga? Senator Judge Soto, let's give way to seniority. Thereafter, Senator Judge Pangilinan. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. This will be very quick. Naliligaw ako eh. Because I think that even some members of the public that are watching naliligaw doon sa discussion of grave threat and inciting to sedition. Di ba sa regular courts naka-charge yun, Mr. Witness?
Sir, wala pa hong, as far as I know, as far as the NBI Cybercrime Division is concerned, wala pa ho sa court, Your Honor. Nasa preliminary investigation pa lang ho yung case natin.
So pero sa regular courts pinafile, di ba?
Yes po. Opo.
Ang nakafile dito sa impeachment court, betrayal of public trust, di ba?
Opo, Your Honor.
At saka other high crimes.
Yes po, Your Honor.
Hindi grave threat at saka inciting to sedition, di ba?
I think yung Article 4 yata may nakalagay doon, Your Honor, na...
Pero hindi yun ang main charge, di ba?
Yes, Your Honor.
Betrayal of public trust.
Opo.
Sige, kasi naliligaw ako eh.
Thank you po, Your Honor.
Thank you, Senator Judge Soto. Senator Judge Pangilinan.
Yes, very quickly lang dahil napag-usapan ito since nag-umpisa tayo ng hearing. Yung authenticated video ba AI?
No, sir.
Ito ba fabricated?
No, sir. It's
Ito
not
ba
fabricated.
spliced?
Hindi po, sir.
So in other words, yung video ay accurate
Yes, sir.
and representation of what happened.
Authenticated.
Kasi
sir. Yes, po.
dalawang linggo na nating dinedebate kung i-admit ba o hindi o et cetera. Hindi naman din sinasabi ng prosecution na altered or spliced or yung defense, altered or spliced. Tama?
Yes, sir. Obviously,
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
well, obvious one of the ways to identify whether AI siya o hindi, isa ho doon yung tinatawag naming visual analysis. Number one, yung human anatomy anomalies. So pag yung merong asymmetrical facial feature, pag merong unnatural positioning of hands, pag merong tinatawag...
Nagiging 6 o 7 yung daliri, ganun.
Opo, Your Honor. And then, kinoconsider din ho namin yung tinatawag naming temporal artifacts doon sa visual analysis. Meaning, kung sa one frame, ito ang condition, then pag tinuloy-tuloy mo nang i-play, minsan mawawala yung buhok, mawawala yung relo. So wala hong ganon na mga circumstances na
So for
nakita
the record,
namin.
lahat ng mga video na pinakita natin dito sa impeachment court, na pinakita ng defense at ng prosecution, lahat yon authentic.
Yes,
for
Your
the
Honor.
record, no?
Yes, Your
Whether
Honor.
the witness or at least both. Okay. Just to put it also on record na dito sa mga sinulat, kasi nung nag-imbestiga kayo, sumagot yung lawyer, di ba? Ni Vice President Sara. Itong dated saan ba yun? Annex I, sorry. Annex J. Yung Annex J, sinasabi, sumagot yung Vice President, yung abogado ng Vice President, no, na our client vehemently denies Annex K having made any threat constituting grave threats under Article 282 of the revised penal code in relation to so forth and so on. Since your office acknowledges, kayo yun, ano?
Opo.
That it has access to publicly available materials on the internet, diba? We are confident that the content will and context of the entire press conference subject matter of your investigation will bear this out.
Yes po.
So my question is, ito ba yung ginamit ninyong video? Yung sinasabi nilang it has access, since your office has access to publicly available material.
I believe so, Your Honor. In fact, yung video na yan is existing up to May
Yes.
2025.
Okay, so in other words, kahit ang Vice President's office referred to the video in your possession as part of yung kanyang clarification and defense na hindi grave threats ang nangyari.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. No other question for this.
Thank you. Chair declares. You want to do that now, Senator Judge Padilla? Yes, Senator Judge Padilla would like to interject before we go on a break. You may proceed, sir.
Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Tagapamahala ng Hukom at sa ating Ginoong Pangulo. Maari po ba makapagtanong sa ating mahal na saksi?
Opo, Your Honor. Maaari po.
Ang una ko pong katanungan sana ay taga saan po kayo na lugar, na probinsya?
Tacloban, sir.
Tacloban.
Tacloban City,
Opo.
sir.
Kayo po ngayon ay Regional Director ng NBI sa BARM.
Yes, sir.
Opo. Yun po ba ay isang promosyon para sa inyo na madala sa BARM? Dahil totoo po ba na kayo ang tinatawag na Golden Boy ngayon sa NBI?
I cannot comment on that po, Your Honor.
Kasi po ang
Nasa BARM po ako. Wala ho ako ngayon sa
Opo.
main office, sir.
promotion po ba yon? Yung napunta kayo sa BARM? Balita ko po kasi ilang beses na kayo na-promote sa NBI. 12 years na po kayo, no? Sa NBI.
Yes, sir.
Opo. Ilang beses na po kayo na-promote?
Since na pumasok ko ako sa NBI,
Opo.
sir. From investigation 1, 2, 3 noong 2015, 2016. Well, nung mula ako na pumasok ako sa academy, from investigation 1 hanggang ngayon sa regional director, sir.
Ilang beses po yun? Sa isang taon po,
Sa isang taon? Anong taon po, sir, ang tinutukoy nyo?
Bago po kayo napunta sa BARM.
Bago ho ako napunta sa BARM, regional director po ako ng Mimaropa.
May maropa.
Region 4B, sir.
Opo. Kayo po ba ang pumili sa BARM? Na
Hindi
kayo
po, sir.
mapunta to?
In the exigency of service, doon po kami nilalagay kung ano ang tingin ng direktor na makakatulong kami sa bureau.
Bakit po kaya naisip ng direktor na sa BARM po kayo? Kayo po ba ay may kaalaman sa Islam?
Hindi ko po alam kung ano ang naging basis ng direktor, pero
Kayo po mismo. Ang BARM po kasi is Muslim Mindanao.
yes, Your Honor.
Opo. Meron po kayong kaalaman sa Islam?
In terms of what do you mean kaalaman, sir? Yung
Sa religion po ng Islam kasi Muslim Mindanao. So ibig sabihin, so kahit basic po siguro ng Islam, no?
yes, sir. Kahit naman ho sino pwedeng i-assign kahit saang regional office dito sa Pilipinas.
Di ba po parang
Regional
autonomy ang autonomous region ng Muslim Mindanao. So kailangan man siguro kahit paano meron kayong kaalaman sa Islam.
Konti siguro, sir.
Ano po yung konti na yun?
Well, isa po akong Kristiyano at hindi ko ho malalaman yung kabuuan nung
Siguro po dapat meron kayong basic din na knowledge ng Islam. Ano? So pangalawang tanong po, okay na po yun. Pangalawang tanong po, meron po ba kayong, sa tagal nyo po, sa NBI, 12 years, meron po ba kayong na-encounter na kaso ninyo sa NBI? Kayo po mismo na-filean ng kaso?
Your Honor, normal ho sa mga NBI agents na makakasuhan, in fact, maging sa sinumang law enforcement agency, that's the price we pay for doing our job and for protecting the country. As a matter of fact, in the NBI, Your Honor, we avoid the noise. We just finish the job.
So
sir.
ano po yan? Yes? Yes po yan? Yung sagot nyo? Yes?
Normal ho yan yun sa amin.
So yes po?
Attorney Loto, kindly answer the question.
Yes, sir.
Oh yes. Ano pong, pwede po bang malaman kung ano pong mga naikaso sa inyo?
Well, wala ho pa akong natanggap na official case galing sa ombudsman, pero may nakita na ho akong complaint na binigay sa akin from NBI. Hindi ko na ho maalala yung sa case na yan, pero nung chinek po namin yung case na yan, Your Honor, sabi ko doon sa mga kasama ko, tingnan nyo nga yung validity at authenticity ng case na to. Pinuntahan ho namin yung nagnotaryo, I think
meron
Makati
po, no?
Court yun. Yung Makati Court, nag-issue ho ng certification na fake yung notary. Diyan sa reklamo na yan. So sabi ko, huwag nyo nang pansinin, marami tayong trabaho. Kung fake yung notaryo na yan, mere scrap of paper yan. Huwag na nating pansinin. Although, nag-aantay po ako, Your Honor, na mag-notify sa akin ng OMB kasi sasagutin po namin na eto ho ang nakaalap namin, may dalawang Chinese na nagreklamo. Chinek ho namin doon sa BI, yung dalawang Chinese na yan, I think, 9 months nang overstay at pinaghahanap din ng
Ano pong kaso po
Bureau of
yung
Immigration.
ipinatong sa inyo? Anong kaso?
Hindi ko maalala, Your Honor. Meron ho, may mga kaso ho doon na nakalagay. Pero again, sabi
Wala
ko
po
nga,
kayong isa kahit maalala na ipinatong sa inyo?
if I'm not mistaken, arbitrary detention, may ganun ba? May unlawful arrest? Wala ho sa akin ng record kasi nga, sabi ko nga, nung makita namin na fake yung notary, hindi na ho namin binigyan ng pansin, Your Honor.
Kasi napakakapal po nitong hawak ko.
Wala akong problema, Your Honor. Sasagutin po
kakapal.
namin yan.
Apo.
Sasagutin ko
Hindi
po
niyo
yan.
pa po nasagot magmula noong February 29
Kasi wala pa hong official notice galing sa kung anong ahensya.
na nakarating po sa inyo. Wala pa.
Wala pa ho. Ang nakuha ko lang, yung kopya niyan, siguro may nagpadala sa akin. Sabi ko, teka muna, wala akong official na nare-receive from OMB. So, nung chinek ho namin, kung nag-i-exist ba yung kaso, fake yung notary, hindi na namin
So,
binigyan
ibig niyo
ng
pong
pansin.
sabihin hanggang ngayon, hindi kayo sigurado kung nag-i-exist to.
Dapat may notice na ako from ombudsman.
Di pa
sir.
po dapat ang reaction ng isang tao kapag may kaso, harapin.
Precisely,
Kasi
Your Honor. Iniintay ko nga po yung notice from ombudsman na pag meron na hong notice
Wala
ang
po kayong
ombudsman,
notice hanggang ngayon? Sa
wala pa
ombudsman?
po, Your Honor. Yun nga ang inaantay ko kasi sasagutin namin kasi meron po kaming certification na fake yung notary. Inaantay ko po, Your Honor.
Mas maganda po, maharap nyo kagad.
Definitely, hindi ko
lalong-lalo
namin
na po-
tatakbuhan yan, sir.
Kasi napakahalaga po ngayon nito.
Yes, sir.
Oo, ito po ay ang pinag-uusapan natin dito ay napakahalaga.
Yes, sir.
Opo, at ito pong mga kasong ipinatong sa inyo, perjury, robbery, extortion, theft, mainam po ito
As I've said, Your Honor, in the NBI, we avoid the noise. We just finish the job, sir.
Opo, opo. Meron po akong tanong. Pangatlo. Opo. Kanina po na ang ganda ng talakayan nyo tungkol sa Romanov.
Yes, sir.
Opo. Alam niyo po ba yung istorya ng Romanov? At ang gaganda po ng mga sagutan ninyo, alam niyo po ba yung historical background ng Romanov?
Ang alam ko lang po dyan, Your Honor, yun yung nangyari sa, I think, SAR, kung hindi ako nagkakamali sa Russia.
Sa Russia.
Opo,
Opo. Sino po ba yung nakakalaban ng SAR?
Again, hindi ko po maalala, hindi ko po nakita yung buong...
Yun. Kasi napakahalaga po malaman ng taong bayan kung sino po ang tinatawag natin na Romanov at
Yes,
sino yung nakalaban nila. Kasi po, katabi ko ang isa sa Marcos family.
Yes, sir.
Alam naman po natin lahat, batid natin lahat, na si Apo Lakay, Ferdinand Marcos Sr., ang number 1 na lumaban sa komunista dito sa Pilipinas. Batid naman din po natin na ang nag-execute sa Tsar kay Nikolai at sa kanyang mga anak, sa kanyang pamilya, ay ang komunista. Alam mo po ba niyo yun?
Yes, sir.
Opo. Ngayon, sino po ba ang pangalawang pangulo na lumaban sa komunista?
Sino po, sir?
Ay di si Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Hindi ba po dapat isipin natin yung Romanov ay tungkol sa threat na pumapasok sa mga pamilya na mga namumuno dito sa ating bayan na lumalaban sa komunista. Komunista po ako Gusto ko lamang pong alamin ninyo.
Yes, sir. Well, insofar as the investigation on the issue of whether or not may Romanov or operation of Romanov, ang sabi ko po kanina, nasa intelligence service po namin yan. At I think ang makakasagot po niyan, Your Honor, yung director po namin.
Opo, kasi nabanggit nyo kanina sa usapan po ninyo, si Baste.
Yun po yung...
Sinasabi nyo po kasi kanina, sa usapan po ninyo, sa napakagandang usapan, na yung Romanov, hindi na ipapaliwanag kasi kung ano ba yung ugat nun. Napakahalaga po na alam natin yung ugat. Si Presidente Marcos Sr. ang lumaban sa komunista kaya nagkaroon ng threat noong 1986.
Yes, sir.
Ngayon, sinasabi ni Baste na nagkakaroon ng threat sa kanila, pamilya, sapagkat alam naman nating lahat na ang nagpatuloy ng paglaban sa komunista pagkatapos ni Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte ay si Inday Sara Duterte, ang ating Vice President. Sumasang-ayon po ba kayo doon?
Wala po akong personal knowledge, sir.
Ay, bakit po kayo walang personal knowledge? Yun po ang sumunod na assignment ng ating Vice Presidente pagkaupo niya. Siya po ang nag-take over ng NTF-ELCAC. Hindi po alam ng NBI yun.
Well, nag-NTF-ELCAC siya, pero yung factual circumstances doon,
Factual,
wala pa po akong...
wala po kayong... Pero alam niyo po, sagutin na lang po ninyo na siya ang nag-take over ng NTF-ELCAC.
Yes, Your Honor.
Opo. Isa na lang po, ginoong tagapamahalang hukom. Sabi niyo po kanina, ulitin ko lang po, gusto ko lang pong malaman uli. Inamin niyo po na wala kayong personal knowledge tungkol dun sa threat ng Pangulo. Ng pangalaw, sabi niyo po kanina, wala kayong personal knowledge na kumuha na ng assassin o papatay sa Pangulo, ang pangalawang Pangulo. Narinig ko po kanina.
During that time?
Yes or no lang po.
During that time, ongoing ho ang validation namin,
So,
sir.
ibig niyo pong sabihin ngayon, meron na kayong personal knowledge na meron na kayong...
Hindi po, ongoing po ang validation. At sabi ko nga po, ang makakasagot po niyan, yung intelligence service namin at ang director po namin, sir.
So hanggang ngayon po, wala pa kayong personal knowledge.
In so far as the Cybercrime Division is concerned back then,
Hindi po,
ongoing
ngayon po.
ho yung
Yes or no po?
validation.
Ngayon po, sir. Mahal naming saksi. Ngayon po.
Kung ako tatanungin, wala pa po akong idea, pero baka meron ang intelligence service o ang director po namin.
Attorney Lato, kindly answer the question directly. It's answerable by yes or no. And I think
Yes, sir.
you know the answer.
Opo. Well, ako personally, wala pa po, sir.
Okay.
Yun lang po. Maraming salamat po,
Thank
mahal
you.
na saksi.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Your
you, Senator Judge Padilla. Chair declares a 15-minute recess. We shall resume at 5:38 at exactly 5:38. Trial is on.
Examination
This is
allowed.
already redirect, Your Honor.
I know. Preliminary question is allowed.
Reform Counsel.
Okay, now. You mentioned in your direct examination of a video where the president gave his reaction to the threats of the president.
Yes, sir.
Now, if shown a copy of the video, will you be able to identify the same?
Yes, sir.
Now, Your Honor, I move that the same video marked as Exhibit P dash Roman numeral 4 dash 13 be played for consideration of the witness and the court.
So directed. Is it in a USB? Is that in the USB?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you will again have to break the seal?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yung seal, madali na i-break, ha? Mr. Witness, kindly break the seal
Yes, Your Honor.
in front of the assisting counsels for both the prosecutor and the respondent. Counsel, do you know the timestamp?
Your Honor, it's a we will be showing only the first half of the video,
Okay.
Your Honor. It's not too lengthy, Your Honor, please.
Okay.
Ano ba ito?
Nakakabahala ang mga pahayag na narinig natin itong mga nakarang araw. Nandyan ang walang pakundangang pagmumura at ang pagbabanta ng planong ipapatay ang ilan sa at kadali ang pagplano sa pagpatay ng isang presidente. Paano pa kaya ang mga pagkaraniwan na mamamayan? Yung ganyang kriminal na pagtatangka ay hindi dapat pinapalampas. Yan ay aking papalagan. As a democratic country, we need to uphold the rule of law. Ako, bilang pinuno ng Executive Department at lahat ng mga nanunungkulan sa pamahalaan ay may sinumpaang tungkulin na tutupdin at pangangalagaan ang konstitusyon at ang ating mga batas. Kaya hindi tama ang pagpigil sa mga halal ng bayan sa paghahanap ng katotohanan. Hindi na sanang hahantong sa ganitong drama.
Your Honor, in fact, in the booth, we are satisfied. We may add at this point.
The tech is instructed to kindly pause and cease the playing of the video.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may proceed, sir.
Attorney Lotok, again, when did the press conference, the online press conference of the Vice President happen where she uttered that she already contracted a person to kill the President, for example?
Objection, Your Honor. It's misleading, Your Honor.
Why?
She never mentioned that there was a contract to begin with.
May kinausap na akong tao.
Reform Counsel,
Oh.
Reform the
where,
word contract.
if I may, Your Honor, where the Vice President stated that she already contracted a person to kill the President.
Objection, Your Honor. The Vice President never said the word contracted.
Kinausap, Counsel.
Kinausap.
November 23, 2024, sir.
Now, November 23, 2024. Now, if you know, when did the President, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., issue that statement through the video that was shown a while ago?
If I'm not mistaken, I think November 24 or 25.
Of what year?
2024, sir.
So 1 or 2 days after the
Yes.
threats were made,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Okay, now. You also mentioned earlier, in fact, I remember that instead of denying the threat,
Objection, Your Honor.
wait, I'm not yet
Objection
done.
on the use of the word threat, Your Honor.
Kindly let him finish his question, Counsel. Counsel for the prosecutor, finish your
Yes,
question.
Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. The question now is, you said that instead of denying her statement that she already spoke to a person to kill the President and the two others, you said that the Vice President did not deny that. Do you remember that?
Objection, Your Honor, leading.
Your Honor, just the basis, Your Honor. I mean, in fact,
Witness may answer.
Yes, Your Honor, based on the video dated November 26, 2024.
a video dated what?
November 26, 2024, Your Honor.
Your Honor, at this juncture, we move that video be presented again, but this time with a limited timestamp, Your Honor, please. And for the record, the same is marked as Exhibit P-4-26, Your Honor, please. It is sealed. I move that the defense may also observe the unsealing of such document, Your Honor, please.
Let the witness be the one to unseal it in full view of counsels for both parties. Thereafter, Tech is instructed to kindly play the timestamp to be identified by the counsel for the prosecutors.
And the timestamp is 10 minutes to 40 seconds to 11 minutes 50 seconds.
For the record, assisting counsel for the prosecutor, accompanied by assisting counsel for the respondent, are bringing the USB to the tech booth to be played.
Pardon me. And then I was asked during a press briefing by a media person if I know of these plans, if you can say the word, if that is the correct word to use here, plans. So I answered. I was asked Romanov, and then I answered. I was told by two people, this is the first time I've heard of Romanov, so that is the third already. And I said, don't worry about my security. If they kill me, if I die, kapag pinatay ako, or kapag namatay ako, in the context of, don't worry about my security. So this means, pinatay ka. Diba? Kasi hindi ka naman mamamatay by heart attack in relation to your security. Diba? So, pag namatay ako, I already asked a person to take revenge against 3 individuals. So,
Okay, Okay, pause now. Mr. Witness, when did this event where the Vice President uttered those statements, when did that happen? If you know.
Again, Your Honor, November 26, 2024.
That is 3 days after she uttered in that November 23 press conference that she already spoke to a person and the person said yes,
Yes,
to
Your
kill the
Honor.
president to others now.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, now. Mr. Witness, what is your impression, if any, as to the emotional state of the Vice President when she confirmed that in fact she uttered those threats?
Objection, Your Honor. The witness is incompetent
All
to
right,
answer.
good. Your Honor, I invoke Rule 130, Section 53 of the Rules of Courts. If I may read, opinion of ordinary witnesses, general rule not allowed. But I think if we read the exceptions, Your Honor, it says the witness may testify, however, on his impressions of the emotion, behavior, condition, or appearance of a person. Section 53, Rule 130 specifically allows the question I just posed as to his impression as to the emotional state of the Vice President when she uttered those confirmation threats. It's in the rules, Your Honor.
Comment,
please.
Your Honor.
Comment?
Your Honor, the rules provide that the person should be sufficiently acquainted, Your Honor.
No.
And that is not the case here, so such rule does not apply, Your Honor.
Your Honor,
Overruled. Witness may answer if he knows.
okay,
Attorney
so
Lato, kindly answer if you know.
Yes, Your Honor.
what is the emotional state of the Vice President 3 days after November 23 when she confirmed that she uttered those statements?
Yeah, again, Your Honor, when we tried to connect that in the November 23, 2024 event and the November 26, 2024 utterances, it shows na hindi ho nagbibiro yung Vice Presidente nung inatter niya yung mga utterances nung November 23. At the same time, yung pagiging furious niya, at yun nga, yung sabi ko, yung fumingly mad nung November 2023, dala pa niya hanggang doon sa November 26 kasi nireiterate po niya, Your Honor, at inadmit po niya na meron siyang kinausap na tao to take revenge.
So she admitted it again 3 days after.
Objection,
on that
Your
day.
Honor, as answered.
All right, let me proceed, Your Honor, please.
Move
Now,
on, counsel.
Mr. Witness, earlier it was pointed out by the defense that now that line where the Vice President said that she spoke to a person and the person said yes to kill the President and the 2 others, that was just in response to a question by a certain Princess Maui. Do you
Objection, Your
remember that?
Honor,
Yes, Your
leading.
You're right. These are just preliminary questions. Your Honor, this is the purpose of redirect.
Let's move on. Let's move on, counsels.
yeah.
We all know what we're talking about here.
Yes.
Witness may answer.
Did you consider that statement, that fact, that it was only in response to Princess Mau's statement? If any, if at all.
Objection, leading.
Witness may answer.
Well, I don't think so, Your Honor, kasi ang yung utterances, yung nature ng utterances, may kinausap na ako, ma'am, huwag kang mag-alala. So, ibig sabihin, even before the questions was asked, may kinausap na ho ang Vice Presidente base dun sa utterances niya.
Again, what is the significance, if any, and if you know, and if at all, that fact to your investigation?
Well, it's very much significant because we were able to determine there is intent on the part of the Vice President. The Vice President is determined insofar as that statement is concerned. At the same time, the utterances were not product of a temporary fit of anger or spur of the moment. In other words, the utterances, the threat was real, was serious, Your Honor.
No. You remember during cross-examination yesterday, the good counsel for the defense presented you with a diagram using their props that the NBI is under the DOJ. Remember that?
Yes, sir.
And that the DOJ is under the
Oh, the NBI is under the DOJ and the DOJ is under the President, correct?
Yes, sir.
In fact, you were asked point blank whether the President, if they refer to the President as BBM, I would like to refer to our President as President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. You were asked if he intervened. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Did he in fact intervene, the President, to your investigation?
Objection,
if you
Your
know,
Honor,
if you
leading.
know, if you know,
Leading. Objection leading, Your Honor.
if you know,
Witness may answer.
None at all, sir.
what will you say that not at all?
Well, wala hong dumating sa akin na any information o any direction o any directive, even from the director, na nakipag-communicate ang presidente sa NBI during that time na nag-iimbestiga kami.
If you know, what is the basis of your findings in filing the cases for grave threats and inciting to sedition against the Vice President? If you know.
Ano sir, what is the...
Basis of your findings.
Objection, vague.
Objection,
there's an objection.
Understands, he may answer.
Basis of the findings, well, as I have explained that, Your Honor, there were several factors that we considered before we come up into a conclusion. Yung una nga, yung manner, delivery, or the manner in which the utterances were spoken. And then the literal meaning of the statement, inexplain ko na rin ho yan. And then the nature of the instruction, relentless, huwag kang tumigil hanggat hindi mo mapapatay sila.
All
As well as the relationship between the parties involved, meaning the Vice President and the President, Your Honor.
No, thank you so much. Now, earlier, the counsel for the defense, in their argument that it was merely an exercise of the freedom of expression of the Vice President, when she uttered that, and they said that the Vice President is an ordinary citizen. Do you remember that?
Objection,
I
leading.
think so, Your Honor.
Your Honor, again, this is the purpose of
Witness may
redirect.
answer.
Yes, sir.
Do you agree with that? That the Vice President is an ordinary individual?
Definitely not, Your Honor. The Vice President is the second highest official of the land, sir.
Okay, now, let's proceed. Mr. Witness, yesterday, the defense devoted more than 2 hours in pointing, for example, number one, an alleged discrepancy in the subpoena, okay, dated November 6, 2024, and according to the defense, the NBI supposedly started its investigation on November 23, but there was already a subpoena dated November 6. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Witness, how do you characterize this error, if at all?
Typo, sir. Typographical error, sir.
Typographical. Para maintindihan ng ating mga kababayan, Attorney Lotok, ano ba ibig sabihin kung alam mo ng isang typographical error?
Well, basically, hindi ito substantial insofar as the document is concerned. Ito yung may mga instance maling spelling o nagkamali lang ng date. Then pag makita mo naman dun sa surrounding circumstances, ito naman ang tinutukoy na date. O gaya ng mga case numbers.
Case numbers. Now, what effect, if any, did this typographical error have on the statement of the Vice President threatening the President and the 2 others? What's the effect, if any, of these errors?
They don't have any effect at all insofar as the findings of the NBI is concerned, sir.
Why is that?
Well, because those typographical errors does not alter the fact that the video exists. It does not alter the fact that the Vice President uttered those statements. And it does not alter the fact that the findings of the NBI is that the Vice President committed the crime of grave threats and inciting to sedition.
Okay,
Your
now.
Honor.
Okay, now. The defense also mentioned that there is a lack of signature of Attorney Ria Asuncion
on one of the several minutes of the interview, this time with a certain Jason Rubrico of SMNI. How do you characterize that error again, if you know?
Typo, sir.
Typo
Typographical
error.
sir.
What effect, if any, does that typo error have on the statements of the Vice President threatening the President and the two others?
Again, sir, hindi ho nabago yung utterances ng Vice Presidente. Hindi rin ho nabago yung video. Hindi rin ho nabago yung findings namin na indeed kumpleto yung mga ebidensya at ang Presidente ay nag-commit ng crime of grave threats and inciting to sedition.
Okay. Third point. What about the alleged discrepancy in docket numbers? How do you characterize that error?
Objection, Your Honor. The witness already testified during cross-examination that he was not privy to the assignment of docket numbers, as that is the function of the DOJ. So he won't be competent to answer.
Your Honor, I do remember, despite that, the counsel asked several questions after that, and the witness was able to answer those questions.
Your Honor,
It's for the witness
Your
to answer
Honor,
that.
he mentioned, Your Honor, that he does not have personal knowledge.
In fact, Your Honor,
Counsel, if he gives a different answer, then you can address that in your
Yes, okay.
recross.
okay, sorry.
Witness may answer.
This discrepancy in the docket numbers, how do you characterize this error?
Again, Your Honor.
Objection, Your Honor, he won't be
in-
competent to answer that because
Oh.
docket numbers are assigned by the DOJ, not by the NBI.
Exactly, that's the
Again,
point.
counsel, let him answer. What if he answers that he's not competent, then that's his answer. Witness may answer.
Well, kung docket number lang ho ang pag-uusapan, hindi ho nawala yung existence ng video. Hindi rin ho nabago na ang Vice Presidente ay nagsalita na meron na siyang kinausap na tao.
Attorney Lotok, your answer is not responsive though. Kindly answer the question of the counsel.
Okay, how do you characterize that error?
Typographical error.
Okay, next
sir.
question. What effect, if any, does that typographical error have on the statements of the Vice President threatening the President, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., His Excellency, and the two others?
No effect at all, Your Honor. Hindi ho na-alter yung utterances ng Vice Presidente.
Okay, now, let's go to the affidavits of investigation, which the good counsel mentioned in yesterday's cross-examination. During your cross-examination, you were asked questions concerning the January 30, 2025 affidavit of investigation. After that affidavit was submitted, now the question is, what action, if any, did the Department of Justice take, and if you know?
The Department of Justice evaluated the referral by the NBI. And then after evaluation, nag-issue po sila ng certification na kulang pa, insufficient yung inyong sinubmit. So dapat i-comply niyo muna itong mga requirements na to. So nagbigay ho sila ng, I think 7 ho ang nandoon. Yun po ang ginawa ng Department of Justice.
All right. Now, what did the NBI do, if any, in response to that recommendation from the DOJ?
The NBI complied the requirements of the Department of Justice, and as a matter of fact, nung na-comply na ho namin, the DOJ issued a certification stating to the effect na you have complied all the elements of the crime charge and you are now good for preliminary investigation, sir.
In fact, you also remember yesterday that you mentioned that the NBI also submitted a letter to DOJ. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Why did the NBI submit a letter to the DOJ, if you know?
No, well, I think that letter was signed by the then director Jaime V. Santiago, and the then director was notifying the Department of Justice that the NBI has already complied with all the requirements, and that the NBI is now submitting its affidavit with all the requirements attached therein, and with explanation, specifically yung requirement na kailangan may complaint ang recipient, gaya ng presidente. Ang explanation ho doon sa letter na yon, na for purposes of preliminary investigation under the new NPS rules, hindi ho kailangan yung complainant himself kundi pwede ang law enforcement agency gaya ng NBI na mag-file ng complaint. Again, for purposes of preliminary investigation.
Attorney Lotok, if shown a copy of that letter of former Director Santiago, will you be able to identify the same?
Yes, sir.
Now, we are now in the process through Attorney Stephen Magallon of Sa Legal Law, showing you a copy of a letter dated February 11, 2025. We invite the defense to also peruse the same.
Yes, sir.
Also assisted by a lawyer also from Cebu. What relation, if any, does this document have with the one you mentioned?
The same docs that I mentioned, sir.
Your Honors, at this juncture, we move that the letter dated February 11, 2025 by Director Santiago, identified by the witness, where the NBI informed the DOJ that it already complied with all the requirements, be marked as Exhibit P, Roman numeral 4-34 for the prosecution.
This is not yet pre-marked, counsel.
Not yet pre-marked, introduced in response to the to the cross-examination by the defense.
Comment from the counsel for respondent.
We do not object.
No comment.
We do
Okay.
not object, Your Honor.
Counsel
Just a
may proceed.
photocopy, Your Honor. Just a the comment is that the document is a photocopy.
That's what I was waiting for.
And
Counsel may proceed.
right on cue, we have a certified true copy of the same. We move. We invite the defense.
Assisting counsel for the respondent, kindly confirm.
Ang gagawin.
May we have a stipulation from the defense?
Is the certified true copy or is the photocopy rather a faithful reproduction of the original or certified true copy presented by the assisting counsel for the prosecutor?
For the record, Your Honor, it's a photocopy.
Is it a certified true copy, counsel?
It is a certified true copy compared with a photocopy. So we are moving for stipulation that the photocopy is a faithful reproduction of the certified true copy of the same document.
Same manifestation, Your Honor.
Noted.
All right, now, Mr. Witness, which part of the attached letter did the NBI explain that no law requires the offended party to execute a complaint to conduct preliminary investigation for grave threats?
I think first page, the last paragraph, which says, it is to be emphasized that on 2024 new rules on preliminary investigation and inquest proceedings, a law enforcement agency like the NBI can file a complaint for the purpose of preliminary investigation unless the crime to be filed falls under Section 5, Rule 110 of the Rules of Criminal Procedure.
Okay, thank you so much. May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may proceed, counsel.
Mr. Witness, you were asked whether the NBI already identified the particular individual contracted by the by the respondent, the vice president, to kill the president and the two others. Okay, you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Now, to clarify for the record, what investigation, if any, did your own NBI Cybercrime Division conduct on this matter, if any, if you know?
Again, sir.
Okay.
Let me clarify.
You were asked whether the NBI already identified the particular individual contracted by the respondent to kill the president and the two others. And you said you remember
Objection,
that.
Your Honor,
Yes,
on the use of the word contracted. We never said contracted.
Reform, counsel.
That the vice president already spoke to a person to kill the president, and that person said yes, so that's a contract. Now, do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Objection,
Now-
Your Honor. It's a conclusion of law made by the counsel for the prosecution.
Witness may answer.
All right, now, to clarify, sorry, Your Honor, this is now the question, Attorney Lotok. No? To clarify for the record, what investigation did your own NBI Cybercrime Division conduct
on the identity of this person that said yes to the order of the vice president to kill the president and two others.
Yes, Your Honor. Again, the reason why we sent a letter December 2, 2024 to the Vice President is for that purpose. We informed the Vice President that we are also investigating on that alleged threats against her life. Unfortunately, hindi ho siya nag-appear, so wala ho kaming makitang validated information. Then aside nun, we also issued subpoena to the media personalities who were present during those press conference and who have personal knowledge na nangyari yung event na yon. And in fact, tinanong po namin din sila isa-isa. Kilala niyo ba yung kinausap ng Vice Presidente? May idea ba kayo kung sino yung tao na yon? At bawat isa sa mga nasabpina ho namin at nag-appear, sinabi ho na hindi ho namin kilala. Wala po kaming alam, Your Honor. And then, nung chinek namin yung open source, nung nagkanta kami ng open source investigation, kasi yun nga, sinasabi ko kanina, Your Honor, tinitrace namin yung sinabi ni Princess Maui na Romanov, ang nakita lang ho namin doon, yung statement ni Mayor Baste noong January 2024. Tiningnan din ho namin kung relevant ba yung pag-aalis ng 75 PNP personnel from the BPSPG at inilipat sa Manila para doon sa peace and security, parang i-augment yata sila. Kinonsider din ho namin yon, pero wala ho kaming na-validate na information relative to the threat against the life of the Vice President. But, ganun pa man, Your Honor, I know for a fact na yung aming intelligence service ay continue hong nagmamonitor at naghahanap kung sino yung tao na yan. Baka ho sila ang pwedeng sumagot o yung aming director, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Lotok. Let's move to another point. Now, in your investigation, Attorney Lotok, what significance, if any, did the NBI give to respondent's own admission that she already spoke to a person to kill the president and the two others? What significance, if any?
Well, mabigat ho yun kasi lumalabas na hindi lang ho siya nagjo-joke doon nung ni-reiterate niya yon, nung inadmit niya nung November 26. Ibig sabihin, may intention ho doon ang Vice Presidente base doon sa mga utterances na yon. Pinag-isipan ho niya yan. In fact, I can classify it as...
Objection, Your Honor. The answer is already based on his own interpretation. May we move, Your Honor, that it be stricken off the
Your
record?
Honor, whose interpretation should he be answering?
Witness will please complete his answer and then Chair will consider the objection of the counsel for respondents.
Yeah.
Finish your answer, finish your answer, Attorney Lotok.
Yes po, Your Honor. Yun nga, sinasabi ko, it was contemplated, sir.
Okay, now, Attorney
Objection,
Lotok.
Your Honor.
The Sergeant at Arms is directed to make a proclamation.
All persons are commanded to keep silent under pain of penalty while the impeachment court is in session for the trial of Vice President Sara Zimmerman Duterte.
The impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Zimmerman Duterte is hereby called to order. Please bow our heads and pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you seeking the gift of your grace as we gather in this august chamber to fulfill our duties as senator judges. Grant us the gifts of humility, discernment, and wisdom. Keep our sights set firmly on the truth. Guide our hearts towards the pursuit of justice and the preservation of the rule of law. Bigyan mo kami ng tamang pag-unawa. Gawin mong gabay at inspirasyon ang iyong salita sa lahat ng aming gagawin. Tulungan mo kaming maalala na ang batayan ng aming tungkulin sa hukumang ito ay ang saligang batas at ang tiwala ng bayang Pilipino. We humbly lift the work of our hands in submission to your will for the defense of all that is good and the service of our nation. This we pray in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
The clerk of court will now call the roll.
Roll call of members. Senator Judge Aquino. Senator Judge Cayetano Ala. Senator Judge Cayetano Pia. Senator Judge De La Rosa. Senator Judge Ejercito. Senator Judge Estrada. Senator Judge Go. Senator Judge Ontiveros. Senator Judge Lacson. Senator Judge Lapid. Senator Judge Legarda. Senator Judge Marcoleta. Senator Judge Marcos, Senator Judge Padilla, Senator Judge Pangilinan, Senator Judge Soto III, Senator Judge Tulfo Erwin, Senator Judge Tulfo Rafi, Senator Judge Villanueva, Senator Judge Villar Camille, Senator Judge Villar Mark, Senator Judge Zubiri, the presiding officer, Senator Judge Escudero, Senate President Gatchalian.
With 19 senators present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum.
What is the pleasure of Senator Judge Padilla? Yes, sir.
Magandang tanghali po sa ating tagapamahalang hukom
Magandang hapon din po.
at sa atin pong Ginoong Pangulo. Nais ko lamang po magbigay ng isang maiksing manifesto.
The gentleman has 2 minutes.
Maraming salamat po. A'udhu billahi minasyaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Mga mahal kong kasama, nais ko lamang pong idulog sa inyo ang aking nararamdaman, ang isang damdaming masasabi ko pong nagtatanong sapagkat ang mga nangyayari po sa ating hukuman sa mga oras na ito, hindi ko po alam kung ito ba ay eksakto lang na nangyayari o ito po ba ay sinasadya. Katulad po ng pagkakakulong ng ating dalawang senator judge na si Senator Jinggoy Estrada at si Senator Rodante Marcoleta. At ang kagiyat pong pagdating ng aming mga masasabing galing sa ombudsman sa akin at kay Senator Alan Peter Cayetano. At kahapon, pagkatapos pong ng isang araw na mabanggit ang patungkol sa pagpunta ng ating mahal na NBI Director sa Bangkok at ito po ay kinwestiyon ni Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, kahapon po ay biglang lumabas ang isang pahayag na iniimbestigahan daw po yung patungkol sa pangyayari noong Southeast Asian Games. Ito po ba ay eksakto lang o ito po ba ay merong dapat tayong pangambahan? Sapagkat alam niyo po, ako din po ay dapat ay pupunta ng Iran. Sapagkat isinagawa po ang pagbibigay-pugay sa namatay na kanilang leader, spiritual leader. Pero hindi po ako tumuloy dahil may impeachment po tayo. Tanong ko lamang po sa ating mga kasama, dapat po ba tayong mangamba? Dapat po ba kaming manggamba? At tayo po ay parang eksakto naman lahat ito? Hindi ba po tayo ay malayang korte? Tayo po ay may karapatan na binibigay ng konstitusyon na magsagawa po ng pagdinig na ito. Yun lamang po. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong tagapamahalang hukom.
The manifestation of Senator Judge Padilla is noted. What is the pleasure of Senator Judge
Mr.
Cayetano?
Presiding
Alan?
Officer, Rule 6 of the impeachment proceedings is that the rules of the Senate is suppletory And if there is anything that affects the honor, integrity, or the functions of us individually or as a Senate here as an impeachment court, someone can rise on a question of personal or collective privilege. I won't do that, but may I just respond to what Senator Padilla said, since my name was mentioned and since the investigation announced by the NBI yesterday seems to be pertaining to this person as chairman of the 2019 organizing committee of the Southeast Asian Games. May I, maybe in the form muna of manifestation, unless the presiding officer or Senate President thinks that I should elaborate on by asking for time on a personal collective privilege, but I don't want to start that.
Senator
precedent.
Judge Cayetano may make his manifestation. For the record, sir.
So, first and foremost, sa sinabi po ni Senator Padilla, I won't ask na ipa-play na yung video, but quite exhaustive yung sinabi ni NBI Director about the Southeast Asian Games. So if the intention was to have a chilling effect, we already have that chilling effect. May 11, hinabol dito sa session hall na to ng mga ahente ng NBI si Senator Bato. May 13, nagkaroon ng enkwentro, putukan, pinipilit ng NBI na hindi sa loob ng Senado, but we have all the evidence that it was inside the Senate. Other incidents, I do not want to evoke a reaction or debate because I want to respect my fellow senators. Much of this has been vented in the media, is in court. Director Matibag has promised us that he will give us a warrant issued by the ICC, has promised us that he will hold his agents na nanggulpin ng isang OSAA. He will be the one to implement the contempt order and hold them in his office, but wala ditong natupad. So when I mentioned his name, his position the other day that it was bad taste, walang personal yun. I mean, regardless kung sinong, even if it was a secretary, an alter ego of the president who wrote the prosecution team or the defense team to say, pwede bang next week kasi may seminar, I would have said the same thing, di ba? Na, look at the gallery. Kompleto parati dyan from Congressman Ace Barbers to many Congressman Ridon. I won't name all of you, but you're busy people. But you think this is important, so you take time out and you are here. Di ba? Of course, the prosecution team, you have to be, you are here. We are here, despite of many, many other important things. Not only investigations, not only the flood control, not only the BIR, not only, we're also talking about the nation being prone to volcanic eruption, to yung bagyo, buti, nasalanta pa rin tayo ng bagyong Inday. Ibang Inday ang pinag-uusapan natin dito sa impeachment. But still, we are here. So it was in good faith that I said, as an example, mukha namang masama kapag kayong isang bureau head. NBI director is a very important position, but it is a bureau. So if a bureau head, and tignan yung invitation, nakalagay sa invitation, or your representative, and we resolved it. So aksidente ba na yesterday, suddenly after I mentioned it, and after during the weekend, many have been talking about na dapat ata hindi 16. So 21 na lang kami ngayon eh. So 2/3 of 21 is 7. Pag nabawasan pa kami ng 3, 13 na lang yon. Pero some will argue, mabawasan lang kami ng 1 o 2, baka 13 na rin yon kasi wala naman half person o 3/4 person. So all of these issues are valid. Question, the chilling effect is there, but am I intimidated? Wala na akong choice. Ilalabang ko na to, gagawin ko yun ang dapat kong gawin. Bumaliktad man yung sitwasyon, si President Marcos ang ini-impeach and I felt a certain way, ilalabang ko rin. Chief Justice man ang i-impeach, ilalabang ko rin. But for the record, Mr. President, go ahead and investigate. First of all, that's been investigated many, many times. COA, I'm not sure. I think the Office of the Ombudsman, ang nag-file pa ata, Chief of Staff mo eh. Senator Rob, I'm not sure but parang may kaso na nun. Senator Drilon quizzed us here. I was Speaker of the House but I chose to appear before the Senate to be able to answer all of those questions directly. The SEA Games, paulit-ulit yan. Biktima na ng speakership ng 2019 yan. Nahuli namin yung PR na sinabi kikiam, pinakain daw mga Muslim ng baboy, when it was chicken longganisa na pinakain. Pero nasiraan na tayo sa Malaysia, Indonesia. The SEA Games gave us so much honor. So far, it is still the biggest SEA Games in history. Many of our athletes launched their career, even going to gold medals in the Olympics. Our athletic and our yung aquatic natin center in Clark is one of the best in the world. Ang nagsabi nito yung Israeli coach ng isang foreign team doon. But go ahead if you want to investigate. But I just want to put on record, mukhang misfire. Bakit? Yung sinasabi niyang infrastructure na walang bidding, first of all, the procurement law has many modes of procurement. So don't make it appear sa public na just because walang bidding, may anomalya na to. Okay. Secondly, bakit ko sinabing misfire? Hindi po sa, I'm referring to the director ng NBI Matibag. I had nothing to do with the infrastructure. The chairman of the committee. In fact, I had to resign from the DFA because I was running for congressman during that time. So dun sa sinasabi ni Director Matibag na may congressional insertion to fund it, it's definitely not me because how could a non-member of the Senate or non-member of the House insert anything? Okay. Dun sa sinasabi niyang infrastructure, it was done by the BCDA. The chairman of the BCDA is one of the closest advisors of the president now. The president of the BCDA is one of the closest advisors and is a secretary now. And he said medyo kaduda tong kumpanya na nanalo walang bidding. If I'm not mistaken, it's the same company who's making the City Hall of Pasig. So I mean, if they want to investigate, go ahead. But by mentioning the organizing committee of the SEA Games, ako po chairman nun. At paninindigan ko po na napakaganda nung nangyari doon. At kung may anomalya, ako unang magagalit. So go ahead. But my point, Mr. Chairman, honorable members of the court, sa prosecution, to be fair sa prosecution at marami akong kaibigan, I've never felt any intimidation from any of you. I mean, you've continued to be either friends or for those who are former friends but friends. I mean, I don't know if nagkamali lang ako but on the first day, I nodded ng konti kay Senator De Lima. Gumanon din siya, hindi ko alam kung acknowledge because we were friends once upon a time and this is a court. We owe it to each other to be professional, di ba? So wag tayong pumayag na someone like Director Matibag would do that. My point, Mr. President, Mr. Presiding Officer, he could have not announced it and investigated. Iimbestigahan mo, tingin mo may mali, iimbestigahan mo. But it is unfair to me and unfair to the court that kung kailan siya patatawag siya sa Monday, intimidate mo ako, hindi kita tatanungin sa Monday dahil mag-a-announce ka na iimbestigahan mo. Tapos sasabihin mo may insertion, tapos sasabihin mo hindi liquidated po lahat yun. So, let me talk of unfairness. Hindi ba unfair? Kung ako, babalik na rin ko, sasabihin ko, inimbestigahan ko na rin kahapon Ang sabi sa akin, mainit ang ulo ni Director Matibag kasi may contractor na daw yung binigay na lupa para sa NBI at gusto niya sarili niyang contractor. Or would that be fair to him? No. It would be a marites accusation. So that's the same thing he announced yesterday. A marites accusation towards me that affects this court because I am now a senator judge. So I hope this is the last time that I'm going to have to speak about this. But definitely we've been speaking about this, binabawasan talaga kami. iniisa-isa. Even yung mga vlogger na malapit sa administrasyon, sabi, 2 down, 3 down, may kasunod na. Di ba? So, Mr. President, I want this impeachment to be a test that the 1987 Constitution works, and that despite political differences, the prosecution and defense, I saw them after the first or second day, nagkakamayang kayo, nagkakamustahan. After the first or second day nung mainit na baliktaktakan dyan sa pre-trial, nagbabatian, di ba? Even in court. So we can't help but be emotional, we can't help but get mad at what we think is disgusting or sometimes crossing the line. But is there any question that for this verdict, whether it's for conviction or acquittal, to be accepted by the Filipino people, we have to make sure that the integrity of the court is intact. I will admit to you, nahirapan po ako. Wala si Senator Marcoleta. Iilan lang po kaming abogado dito. Si Senator Pangilinan, Senator Cheese, si Aimee is a law graduate, di ba?
Pia.
Senator Pia, Bam is a second-year law student and I'm encouraging him na tapusin niya. Total review na yung nangyayari ngayon. But it's not easy. 24 lang kami, nabawasan na ng 3. So I hope this issue of the integrity of the court becomes an issue for all of us. No, I'll repeat what I said when I was Senate President. Director, hindi mo kami natibag. So wag mo try itibagin tong representation na to o itong impeachment court because what you're doing is not helping. You investigate whatever you want to investigate. You want to investigate, ba't ako nagpatubo ng balbas? Investigate mo, no problem with me. Pero wag mo nang i-announce kasi nga naaapektuhan yung integrity ng court. Thank you for the leeway, Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Senator Judge Alan Cayetano. Yes, what is the pleasure of Senator Judge Pia Cayetano?
Mr. President, Presiding Officer, I assume most of my colleagues, like me, were busy studying the lengthy memorandum filed by each of the parties. For the record, 30 plus pages, more or less double space yung sa prosecution. Kaya by the time I got to the defense, para na ako maduduling kasi mahaba na nga yung 30 pages na double space, napunta pa ako sa single space. Okay lang yun, kasama sa trabaho yun, pero that's how lengthy the documents were. And I slept at 2 a.m., hindi kasama to sa explanation ko, di ako nagyayabang or anything, it's our job. And I'm a night person, so normal sa akin yun. And then in the morning, tuloy ulit, sent my staff questions, asked for more details, and then we worked together throughout the morning until it was time to come here. So I don't know anything about this statement of Director Matibag. But it bothers me to hear this. I now remember that I saw a message pop up in my phone which hindi ko nga pinansin kasi nga ito yung important issue ko na pag-aralan ko tong memorandum ng mga parties na inabala nga naman nilang very lengthily and exhaustively na nila dinidiscuss in a written document. But I recall now na may nag-pop up na message from a coach telling me na gustong pa-imbestigahan yung SEA Games. And di ko talaga pinansin. And now Alan brings it up and I am bothered. There is no jurisdiction in the world that allows a judge to be pressured and intimidated. And I ask each one of you, my dear colleagues, payag ba tayo sa ganito? Ganito na ba tayo dito ngayon? Don't we want a better country for our children? Why would you allow a director who's just called to be a witness next week brag that he's going to investigate? And again, I don't know. So I respectfully request that it be played. Because I want to understand. If I don't have reason to be upset, then thank you, I can focus. I can go back to the business on hand. But right now, I am upset to hear this. And I will stand up for each one of you. I don't care what side you're on. I will stand up for you if somebody tries to intimidate you. So with all due respect, Mr. Presiding Officer, I ask that we play it. I want to see what this witness is doing.
Presiding Officer declares a brief recess. Chair grants the motion of Senator Pia in order for us to be able to move on with the matter on hand for today, which is the oral arguments of the parties. Chair therefore instructs the tech to kindly play the 1-minute video for Senator Judge Pangilinan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. We share, we support the position taken by the presiding officer, but we'd like to place on record that the good NBI director will be here on Monday. So my initial view is that we should be able to do this on Monday, but I will yield to the ruling of the chair.
We thank the understanding and magnanimity of Senator Judge Pangilinan. The tech is instructed to play the more or less 1-minute video alluded to and requested by Senator Judge Pia Cayetano.
Meron kaming mga kaso na bago na dapat namin tingnan. Kung maalala nyo, pumunta kami ng Clark because we were given 70 hectares for the NBI Academy. So magkaroon kami ng relationship sa Clark. Nakita namin yung parang sports complex na ginagawa sa Philippine Cities Organizing Committee. Well, nakarating sa akin, may titingnan kami rito, kailangan kami investigahan, dahil nakarating kami rito, pala yung pumasok dito na pera na unliquidated. At merong private company rito na na-involved na binayaran ng 10 billion at ang pagbabayad insertion sa GAA na dinayad. So ito imbestigahan namin. Malaking kaso rin ito. Ay, iba pa yun. Yung sa Caldero na kaso, I think it's ongoing, pero sisilipin na rin namin. Ito yung tungkol dun sa it's a Malaysian company na sila yung nag-delay ng parang port area na to. Walang bidding. Tapos nabayaran ng mabilisan na 10 billion yung halaga, congressional insertion. So sisilipin namin to. Katunayan, meron kaming mga kaso na pumasok na bago na dapat namin tingnan. Kung maalala nyo, pumunta kami ng park because we were given
I think that's it.
70 hectares for the NBI Academy. So magkaroon kami na rin.
Senator Judge Pia Cayetano is recognized.
Rest assured, Mr. Presiding Officer and dear colleagues and parties, I will not belabor this point. I will not stay long. But clearly, from the statements of Director Matibag, malaki daw kaso to. Naimbestigahan na niya? Alam niya ng malaking kaso? Paano niya nalaman? So sa akin lang, Mr. Presiding Officer, simple lang eh. What was the intention here? To distract the minority floor leader, who is one of only 2 lawyers right now, because our other lawyer was already carted off somewhere. So dalawa lang kami. So you wanna distract him. So ako na lang ang tatayo dito. Hindi na siya makakapag-aral. Yung ba intention? Because it is clearly the intention. The fact that he has to stand up, the fact that I have to stand up, the fact that Senator Robin has to stand up, he is distracting us from our job. As Senator Alan said, he could do it quietly. Go ahead. Anong purpose niya? Nagyayabang siya? What's the purpose? Is he trying to intimidate us not to ask him tough questions when he is our resource person next week? I do not know. But those statements, those actions are not acceptable, possibly contemptible. So I ask the presiding officer and you, my dear colleagues, let's think about this clearly. I will stop now. As Senator Pangilinan said, we can take this up on Monday. Salamat na pinagbigyan niyo ako na mapanood natin at pag-isipan natin. Na gano'n na lang, pag may pinatawag tayo sa witness stand, abangan natin na magpe-press kung ano-ano pagsasabi tungkol sa atin. I didn't have enough time to research. But clearly, I know that there's jurisprudence that does not allow a judge to be intimidated. And if hindi pa nanakot yun, then I don't know what is. Kung hindi pa ninindak yun, then I don't know what is. Hindi tayo sensitive. Sanay tayo dito. Pero alam din natin kung pinapatamaan tayo, di ba? Alam natin yun. Hindi tayo tanga. O so paano? Sabihin ko ngayon sa kanya, manda ka sa akin ngayon. Pagdating mo, ganun ba? Gaganti na lang ako. Hindi ako ganun. Kilala niyo ako. For how many years ako tumayo dito? Hindi ako nanggaganti. Hindi ako mababaw. Pero I'm asking you, dear colleagues, wag tayong papayag. The Filipino people deserve better. We deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Judge Pia. What is the pleasure of Senator Judge Alan Cayetano?
Yes, I didn't know we were going to play it, but just for the record, there's no issue with the Qualdron because it was paid by the private sector. There was no public money used, and it was designed by the firm of a national artist. So much so that that same firm, I don't know when we started to hire them, whether it was the time of Senator Lacson as the Committee of Accounts for the new Senate building or the time of Senator Nancy. But until now, there's engagement. So it's so easy to find out. No? But can I shift to the topic at hand? Just one manifestation for the whole Senate regarding the oral arguments.
We have not yet called the journal and called the court.
Yes. So at the proper time, I just want to...
Yes, you may do so at the proper time. Proceeding now, if there are no objections, the presiding officer will dispense with the reading of the July 14, 2026 Journal of the Senate sitting as an impeachment court and shall consider the same as approved.
Clerk of Court will please call the matter before the impeachment court.
Case number 004-2026 in the matter of impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Zimmerman Duterte.
Appearances for the parties.
Good afternoon, Your Honors. Same appearance for the prosecution. We are ready, Your Honor.
Appearances for the respondent.
Good afternoon, Your Honors. I'm Michael Poa. Same appearances for the defense and for the respondent accused, Your Honor.
Before recognizing the counsel for the prosecution for their 15 minutes for their presentation and oral argument in relation to their motions for the issuance of subpoena for banks, AMLC, and the BIR, Chair would like to recognize Senator Judge Alan Cayetano for his manifestation earlier. Alan? The Senator Judge intimated earlier that he had a manifestation before we proceeded.
Yes, this is really to be fair to the prosecution and of course to the defense and to each one of us. So yesterday I asked whether or not mag-oral arguments today, and then I'd like to thank the Senate President and of course the presiding officer and all our colleagues, no, Senator Soto, although magkatabi kami, hindi kami magkatabi, but I saw him agreeing that we should have a caucus and discuss this. Hinimay ko lang very preliminarily, ha. If we're going to look at issues, for example, relevancy lang, you have about the banks, you have AMLA, AMLC, you have BIR. Then for each one of them, so for example, for the banks and AMLC, you have peso accounts and dollar accounts. Then for each one of them, you have the account of Vice President Sara, but also of the spouse, and then possibly of the companies, same sa BIR. So, although I do believe that we have exclusive jurisdiction, sometimes the Supreme Court have defined certain parameters that we either have crossed or not. So if we're going to vote, one vote, whether or not to allow these subpoenas, it would be unfair to everyone. For example, me, I cannot vote unless I see na walang problema sa lahat. Then no problem, let's vote. Pwede. Pero kung sabihin kong walang problema sa banks at AMLA, may problema sa BIR. Walang problema sa BIR pero sa spouse meron. So we're going to have a caucus, and I'm sure we're going to have a good discussion on that. But just two things. Number one, can we give, of course, we'll follow the time today, but if any of the two, the prosecution or for example, in the rebuttal, after the rebuttal ng defense, makikita na ng prosecution saan talaga nag-o-object yung defense, hindi lang sa lahat. If we can give them a little bit more time, kasi nga, mahabang discussion to. Having said that, I'm more than okay if we have to have an extra day next week, whether to discuss among ourselves or I'm not preempting our caucus. I'm just saying, Mr. President, that I commit to you, I will not delay, I will not overtalk on these issues, and I don't think controversial each and every one of this yung request for subpoena dito, but there may be one or two, and I don't think it would be good for us to lump it in one issue if there are different legal issues. The law, there are similarities in the law, but there's a different law governing AMLA, there's a different law for the bank secrecy, there's a different law for BIR. So, thank you, Mr.
Chair notes the observation of Senator Judge Alan Cayetano. However, subject, of course, to any agreements that will be arrived at in caucus, we are constrained by the motions filed by the parties. There are only two pending motions that this court should act upon. Number one, a motion for the issuance of a subpoena with respect to bank and AMLC records on the one hand, and number two, a motion for the issuance of subpoena for BIR records. Understandably, there are sub-issues underneath each, but we cannot put to a vote each and every sub-issue under each motion. So we will most likely, and the chair would suggest, put it to a vote by the motions that have been filed by the parties, whether or not to grant it or to deny the motion filed by the prosecutors rather in this case. Again, subject, of course, any agreements we might arrive at in caucus, Senator Judge Allen, and the chair will submit to that. Now, as earlier agreed in yesterday's proceedings, the prosecution will be given 15 minutes for their chief arguments. Likewise, the respondent will be given 15 minutes. And then thereafter, the prosecutor will be given 10 minutes by way of rebuttal, and the respondent will be given 10 minutes by way of rebuttal. May I ask who among the prosecutors or counsel for prosecutors will argue the motion for the issuance of the subpoenas for the banks, AMLC, and BIR?
Your Honors, the prosecution will be represented by the Honorable Representative Chel Jokno for the purpose of this oral argument. Nonetheless, Your Honor, we have some manifestation to make for the prosecution.
The lead prosecutor may proceed. This is pertaining to the matter on hand.
This pertains, Your Honor, to the remaining witnesses for Article 4 threat.
Can we discuss that later before we adjourn, lead prosecutor?
We submit, Your Honor.
Thank you. On the part of the respondent,
The part of
who
the
will argue?
respondent, Your Honor, I will be the one arguing today.
For the record, kindly state your full name, Attorney Poa.
My name is Michael Wesley T. Poa, Your Honor. Thank you.
Your Honor, we're requesting that Congressman Chel Jokno be recognized.
For the prosecutors, the Honorable Representative from the party list Akbayan, Chel Jokno, is recognized for his oral arguments on the motions, twin motions that they filed. You are recognized, sir, and you may proceed when you're ready. You have 15 minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, everyone, to the members of this honorable court. May it please the court. Simple lang po ang isyong kinakaharap natin ngayong hapon na ito. Pero napakabigat. Bubuksan ba natin ang pinto ng katotohanan o haharangin ito? Ang hiling ng prosecution ay mailabas ang buong katotohanan so that this court may know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and make its decisions based on that. That is why we have requested the issuance of subpoena duces tecum for the bank records, tax records, and anti-money laundering council reports relating to Vice President Sara Duterte and her husband, Attorney Mans Carpio. Sa pamamagitan nito, may lalahad ang buong katotohanan tungkol sa mga alegasyon sa Article 2 ng Articles of Impeachment. Una, na pinayaman ni Vice Presidente ang kanyang sarili ng labis-labis sa kanyang legal na sahod at lehitimong kita bilang isang lingkod bayan. Pangalawa, na meron siyang mga ari-arihang hindi dineklara sa kanyang Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth. At pangatlo, na habang siya ay nanunungkulan bilang Vice Presidente, nakibahagi siya sa negosyo, directly or indirectly, kahit ipinagbabawal ito ng ating konstitusyon. Sasabihin marahil ng depensa na walang kapangyarihan ang hukumang ito na busisiin ng mga bank records, tax records at AMLA reports ni VP Sara. With all due respect, that argument is not only legally flawed, it is an affront to the authority of this honorable court. Kung tatanggapin po natin ang argumentong ito, hahayaan natin maliitin at insultuhin ang hukumang ito. The Constitution, Your Honors, please, vests this impeachment court with extraordinary powers. Tanging ang hukumang ito lamang ang may kapangyarihang magpasya kung ang mga pinakamataas na pinuno ng ating bansa ay karapat-dapat pa rin manungkulan. Because this power comes directly from the Constitution, no one, no person, no law, no administrative rule can limit or supersede it. I repeat, nothing and no one can handcuff this court's power to try and decide this impeachment case. Kahit ang bank secrecy law po ay sumusunod at tumatalima sa impeachment court. The law explicitly states, and I quote its pertinent portions, "All deposits are hereby considered as of an absolutely confidential nature except in cases of impeachment." Walang kaduda-duda, may karapatan at kapangyarihan ng impeachment court na busisiin ang mga bank records ni VP Sara. Hindi rin po hadlang ang Data Privacy Act. The law itself affirms that confidentiality shall not apply, and I quote, "should the personal information be needed pursuant to a subpoena duly issued." Muli, walang kaduda-duda. May karapatan at kapangyarihan ng impeachment court na ipasabpina ang mga dokumento ni VP Sara Duterte. Pero sabi po ng kampo ni Vice President, irrelevant daw ang mga bank records, AMLAC reports at BIR records. Lalo na daw yung mga transaksyon na nangyari bago siya umupo bilang pangalawang Pangulo dahil wala raw itong kinalaman sa kasong ito. The prosecution respectfully but vehemently disagrees. Ayon sa report ng Anti-Money Laundering Council na isinumite sa Committee on Justice ng House of Representatives, the financial activity of Vice President Sara C. Duterte increased significantly starting 2007 when transaction values surged to 208.15 million pesos. According to this report, which is marked as Exhibit P-2-7-8, I quote, "Financial movements intensified between 2009 and 2013 with consistently high totals exceeding 400 million pesos, including notable peaks in 2009, 704.93 million pesos, 2010, 648.58 million pesos, and 2011, 597.15 million pesos. Si VP Sara po ay nanungkulan bilang Vice Mayor ng Davao City mula 2007 hanggang 2010. Naglingkod naman siya bilang Mayor ng Davao City mula 2010 hanggang 2013. From 2007 to 2013, ayon sa records ng AMLAC, lumampas sa 3 billion pesos ang kanyang financial activity. May kinalaman ba ito? Ito ba ay relevant sa Article 2 ng Articles of Impeachment, which alleges, among others, that VP Sara betrayed the public trust and culpably violated the Constitution when she amassed unexplained wealth manifestly disproportionate to her lawful income? Para sa prosecution, malinaw ang sagot. The Vice President's financial activity as Vice Mayor and Mayor of Davao City relates directly to the main fact in issue in this case, her fitness or unfitness to serve as Vice President. Let me explain. The framers of the 1987 Constitution added betrayal of public trust as a ground for impeachment, and I quote, "to include all acts which render the officer unfit to continue in office." For this honorable court to determine whether VP Sara Duterte is unfit to continue in office, it must have a clear picture of the respondent as a public servant. Kailangan makita ng publiko at ng mga senator judge ang tunay na kulay ng vice-presidente at larawan ng kanyang buong pagkatao bilang isang lingkod bayan. If she amassed staggering amounts of unexplained wealth while she was a vice mayor and mayor, doesn't that say a lot about her unfitness to serve as a vice president? Isn't that relevant to the question this court must resolve at the end of this trial of whether or not the vice president betrayed the trust given to her by the people? From what I have gathered and read, Your Honors, please, this is not the first time this court has been confronted with this issue. Sa impeachment ni dating Chief Justice Renato Corona, tinanggap ng hukumang ito ang mga ebidensyang nakalap bago pa man siya naupo bilang punong hukom. I believe it was then Senator Judge, now presiding officer Francis Escudero, who raised the question, will the impeachment court consider only Corona's acts as Chief Justice. This after observing that some exhibits predated his appointment as Chief Justice. This matter was taken up in caucus, after which this court decided to allow such evidence. When Philippine Savings Bank President Pascual Garcia III testified before this court in the same Corona trial, he refused to answer the question of then Senator Judge Franklin Drilon on the starting balance of Corona's 2 peso denominated accounts. But if I'm not mistaken, it was Senator Judge Alan Peter Cayetano who said that records of initial deposits are among the quote-unquote opening documents that should have been brought to the impeachment court. After reading the subpoena, presiding officer Senator Juan Ponce Enrile held that Senator Judge Cayetano's observation was correct. During the same hearing, the presiding officer ordered the issuance of subpoena to PS Bank Katipunan branch manager Annabel Tiongson to bring all the bank records of the Chief Justice. A few days later, the impeachment court denied the defense's motion to quash the subpoena for the peso bank accounts of CJ Corona. The presiding officer explained that the purpose of the subpoena is to find out if Corona has not included the deposits in his SALN. This court also denied the defense's motion to suppress evidence on Corona's bank accounts. Sa huli, binusisi ng hukumang ito ang bank records ni Chief Justice Corona mula sa kanyang unang balanse bago pa man siya naging punong mahistrado. The panel of prosecutors respectfully submits that the subpoenas for the production of the bank records, AMLA documents, and BIR documents of the Vice President and her husband are proper and should be issued by this honorable court. Now allow me, Your Honors, to return to my first point. There is a deeper reason why this court must resist the attempts of the respondent to exclude evidence that is obviously relevant. It has to do with curtailing the power of this court. The Constitution gives this honorable court, and I quote, the sole power to try and decide impeachment cases. Kayo lang po, Your Honors, ang may kapangyarihang magpasya kung ano ang impeachable offense at kung anong ebidensya ang maaaring tanggapin para patunayan ito. Kinilala ito mismo ng Korte Suprema. In the case of Francisco versus House of Representatives, the Supreme Court declared, and I quote, a determination of what constitutes an impeachable offense is a purely political question which the Constitution has left to the sound discretion of the legislature. Such an intent is clear from the deliberations of the Constitutional Commission. Inulit po ito ng Supreme Court sa kasong Gutierrez versus House of Representatives, where the Supreme Court declared, and I quote, Francisco instructs that this issue would require the court to make a determination of what constitutes an impeachable offense. Such a determination is purely a political question which this Constitution has left to the sound discretion of the legislature. Clearly, the issue calls upon this court to decide a non-justiciable political question which is beyond the scope of its judicial power. Since this impeachment court has the sole power to determine what constitutes an impeachable offense, no one, not the Supreme Court, much less the defense, can impose limitations on that power. No one can dictate to this court how to exercise the exclusive power to decide what constitutes an impeachable offense. In closing, Your Honors, I go back to the most fundamental provision in our Constitution on the accountability of public officers, Article 11, Section 1, which provides, and I quote, public office is a public trust. Public officers and employees must at all times be accountable to the people. Ibig sabihin po, sa proseso ng impeachment, ang pananagutan sa taong bayan ang pinakamahalaga sa lahat. Kaya naman po, ang hiling namin sa korte, gamitin ang inyong natatanging kapangyarihan at karapatan na busisiin ang bank records, tax records at AMLA reports kaugnay ni VP Sara at ng kanyang asawa. Sa ganitong paraan, Your Honors, madedesisyonan ninyo ang kaso base sa buong katotohanan. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth para sa interes at kapakanan ng sambayanang Pilipino. Before I close, if Your Honors please, if I have whatever time I have left, may I request that it be credited to my rebuttal. Maraming salamat po.
We will try to do that, Your Honor. You have 1 minute and 39 seconds. And if at all we do so, we shall equally credit it to the rebuttal, if any, of the counsel for respondents.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Attorney Powa, if you are ready, you may proceed with your oral arguments on the twin motions filed by the prosecutors. You may proceed, sir, when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You have 15 minutes.
Mr. Presiding Officer, Honorable Senator Judges, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. The issue before the impeachment court today is not whether you possess the power to issue a subpoena. The real issue is whether such power may be exercised in a manner that disregards due process and compels the production of documents and information beyond what is allowed by law. Your Honors, jurisprudence provides that for a subpoena to be valid, it must comply with twin requirements of 1, definiteness, and 2, relevance. Ibig sabihin po nun, dapat particularly describe po ang nasasaklaw ng subpoena at dapat may direktang kaugnayan sa ginagawang paglilitis. Your Honors, when a subpoena becomes oppressive, when it is unreasonable, and when it is merely issued for the very purpose that there is a hope that somewhere, somehow, something incriminating will come out, it ceases to be an instrument of justice. It becomes a weapon of a fishing expedition. And that is exactly what confronts this very court today. And that is why the defense has taken the position that the prosecution's requests must be denied. Allow me to explain, and let me begin with constitutional points. Our first point, Your Honors, due process. Impeachment is primarily a legal and constitutional procedure with political characteristics. It is sui generis, but it is not a purely political proceeding. Ibig sabihin po nun, the Bill of Rights, especially the due process clause, applies in all stages of the impeachment process. Your Honors, those are not my words. Those are the words of the Supreme Court in Duterte versus House of Representatives. And that is the law of the land. When we speak of due process, we offer a simple proposition that evidence must be present to support each and every accusation. Pero hindi po yon yung nangyari dito. Balikan po natin kung saan nagsimula itong proceeding na ito. I have here with me, Your Honors, copies of the Zabalya and Cabrera complaints. Both filed before the House of Representatives. Both accused the Vice President of allegedly amassing unexplained wealth. Both with voluminous attachments. Yet not one attached a document to support that accusation. Not a single financial transaction record, not even a single SALN. In fact, it was only after these complaints were filed, and more significantly, only after the respondent had filed her answer before the Committee on Justice, that committee started searching for evidence to somehow support these accusations through, again, the issuance of subpoenas. Your Honors, we objected then, and we are still objecting now, because with all due respect, the position of the defense is that is the very definition of a fishing expedition. Your Honors, in our legal system, it is not permitted to accuse now and then just look for proof later on. That is not how due process works. Hindi po dapat natin pinapayagan yan. Moving on to my second point, Your Honors. Let's talk about relevance. It is our position that the requests of the prosecution are in fact fatally overbroad. Bakit po fatally overbroad? An impeachable offense is an act or omission committed while the public official is occupying an impeachable office, not before being elected or appointed to such position. Again, Your Honors, those are not my words. Those are the words of the Supreme Court in Duterte versus the House of Representatives. That is controlling and that is the law of the land. Yet here, Your Honor, today, the prosecution is requesting for documents spanning almost 2 decades, almost 20 years, dating as far back as 2007. Your Honors, it is a fact na noong 2007, ang respondent ay vice mayor pa lamang. Definitely not an impeachable office, Your Honors. How is that relevant? It is the position of the defense that it is not. In fact, what that is an unlimited search throughout a person's financial history. That should not be allowed. Your Honors, if a subpoena is not narrowly tailored, it is oppressive. For these reasons alone, we are of the position that the request should already be dismissed. Nonetheless, if the impeachment court were to extend its utmost liberality, which the prosecution have asked for in their memorandum, we'd like to point out, Your Honors, that Congress itself, the Senate and the House of Representatives, enacted laws that specifically prohibit the disclosure of this information that the prosecution is asking for now. Let us go through them one by one. Let's start with RA 9160 as amended by RA 11521, which is the Anti-Money Laundering Act. Your Honors, the prosecution is asking for covered transaction reports, suspicious transaction reports, financial intelligence reports, again, spanning almost 2 decades. However, it is clear under Section 8A, which we are flashing on the screen right now, na bawal po yun. Disclosure is prohibited under this provision, Your Honors. It is in black and white. Meron po bang exception? Wala po. Impeachment is not an exception. Had Congress wanted to make impeachment as an exception, madali lang naman pong ilagay yun sa batas. Pero hindi po iyon nagawa. Now, in fact, I also have here copies of the Financial Intelligence Report and another report from the AMLAC, the Information Management Analysis Group, which were already marked as exhibits, Your Honor. And it's in the records of the court. Exhibit D2-8-P1, where it says specifically that the information should not be used as evidence in formal proceedings, Your Honors. Clearly, Your Honors, to compel AMLAC officials to disclose such information would be to compel them to violate the law. Let's move on now to the tax records, Your Honors. Prosecution is asking for tax records, so let's look at the tax code. Section 270 of which criminalizes disclosure of taxpayers' information. Meron po bang exception sa batas na ito? Meron po, but it is limited. Kasama po bang impeachment? Hindi po. That is very clear. Again, Congress wanted to put an exception for impeachment. They could have easily done so, but they did not. Now, Your Honors, let's go to Bank Secrecy Law, RA 1405. The state policy has always been to favor the secrecy of bank deposits, Your Honors. Dito, while we recognize that impeachment is in fact an exception, Your Honors, we submit that this exception is not automatic. Meaning, hindi porket may exception for impeachment, pwede na kaagad natin buksan ang lahat ng bank records na hinihingi ng prosecution. Why? Because, Your Honor, this exception does not dispense with constitutional safeguards. It does not abolish the right to due process. So dapat po, meron pa rin tayong basihan. If you look at the articles of impeachment, wala naman po doon na nagsasabing yung sinasabing unexplained wealth coming from, even if it was an illegal activity, ay pinasok sa isang specific account. In fact, Your Honors, this exception does not automatically mean that we should permit a fishing expedition. Yun nga pong mga bank account numbers na nakaspecify sa request for the issuance of a subpoena, ang aming posisyon po dyan, yan po ay nakalap doon sa illegal disclosure, with all due respect, na ginawa ng AMLAC before the Committee on Justice. And then, Your Honors, they're also asking for the bank records of the spouse. Your Honor, the spouse is not an impeachable officer. And therefore, the spouse is not covered by this exception. Again, Your Honors, we should not allow this. In closing, Your Honors, the prosecution has repeatedly invoked accountability. Your Honors, we agree with them. No one is above the law. But in the same manner, no one must fall below or be outside the protection of the law. Impeachment is indeed a powerful constitutional tool. But Your Honors, impeachment is not a magic word or a magic wand that one can just wave to transform an illegal act into a legal act, to transform unlawful access to lawful access. That is not what the Constitution contemplates. That is not what the laws enacted by Congress contemplate. And that is not something that the Honorable Impeachment Court should allow. We submit, Your Honors. Thank you very much.
The gentleman still has 2 minutes and 48 seconds, which we shall credit, similar to the request of the prosecutor, to your rebuttal should you desire to use it, counsel, for the respondent, Attorney Paul.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Counsel, the prosecutor is recognized. Attorney Chel Jokno, you have 11.38 minutes, which will round off to 12 minutes, counsel. You may proceed when you're ready for your rebuttal.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Presiding Officer, at magandang hapon po ulit sa ating lahat. Let me address each of the points that the defense has raised in their oral argument. Sabi po nila una ay due process daw ang isang paulit-ulit na dinidiin ng defense. But there's no debate that due process applies in this proceeding, just like in any other proceeding. The real issue before this honorable court is, will the subpoenas that we are asking be issued by this court actually deprive the respondent of any form of due process? Ang aming paniwala po ay hindi. And allow me to explain why. First of all, we are not yet at the stage where any evidence is being put in the trial or offered to the honorable court. Nandito pa lang po tayo sa punto na kung maari bang ipaproduce natin itong mga dokumentong ito. The defense will have every opportunity to make objections if and when Particular exhibits or documents are identified by a witness and offered in evidence. Therefore, wala pong due process violation ang pag-issue ng subpoena. Second, the defense repeatedly cites the case of Duterte versus House of Representatives as, I quote, the law of the land, as I quote, controlling daw yung decision na yan. But I must remind the defense of that particular case and why the pronouncements quoted are mere obiter dicta o kung sa simpleng salita po ay side comment lang. The entire Duterte versus House of Representatives case revolved around a different mode of impeachment. Kung maalala po natin, yan yung at least one-third na members of the House ang nagsampa ng kaso. And the entire decision discussed how due process should apply to that mode of impeachment. Totoo, may sinabi ang Supreme Court tungkol sa mode na ginamit po ng Saballa and the Cabrera complaints. Pero hindi po yun ang issue sa kaso ni Duterte. That issue is just a side bypass or incidental declarations of the court that are not controlling and are not the law of the land. And if you look mismo at the decision of the court, they expressly said, we are speaking of due process in relation to how these proceedings reached the Senate as an impeachment court, not this kind of procedure. Second, paulit-ulit din po nilang sinasabi na ang ginagawa po ng prosecution ay fishing expedition. Actually po, meron ng desisyon ang Supreme Court that addresses squarely this point. This case involved a case of unexplained wealth, the case of Republic versus Rabusa, GR 208183, decided August 31, 2022. Just like here, the prosecution in that case requested subpoenas for the production of bank records. Just like here, the argument was raised that this is a mere fishing expedition. In fact, hanggang sa Court of Appeals, ang sabi po ng Court of Appeals ay fishing expedition lang po yan. But please allow me to read just a portion of what the Supreme Court held here. I quote, "The Court of Appeals resolved that the bank accounts of Rabusa et al. Were protected under Republic Act 1405, that is the Bank Secrecy Law. Given the arbitrary demand to disclose the contents thereof, the Court of Appeals considered the inquiry as a fishing expedition to utilize evidence against Rabusa et al. In the instant case, given that the court orders in the form of various subpoena duces tecum and ad testificandum all involved the forfeiture of unexplained wealth, the RTC was in error for not allowing petitioner to examine, inquire, and look into the subject accounts." I continue. "As the present proceedings on unexplained wealth are now encompassed within the exceptions of Republic Act 1405, the court orders subject of this case clearly fall within the orders that would enable the examination of the respondent's bank accounts as contemplated in the first exception. Thus, it comes clear that this court cannot sustain the RTC's and Court of Appeals theory that there was no court order authorizing the examination of the bank accounts. On the contrary, records prove that the RTC issued several subpoena duces tecum and ad testificandum, which required certain persons to testify in open court and present documents which pertain to the existence and identity of the subject accounts and also to the accounts, the contents found therein. I just move forward. Given the existence and propriety of the subpoenas, the evidence procured through the same should have been duly considered by the lower courts. This court cannot agree with the Court of Appeals' supposition that the examination of the respondents' bank accounts was but a mere fishing expedition to pin liability on them. Next, the defense repeatedly cites a number of laws to claim that the requested information and documents that we are asking from this court for the issuance of subpoena are confidential. Sabi po nila, confidential daw ito sa ilalim ng Republic Act 1405. Sabi po nila, confidential daw ito sa ilalim ng Anti-Money Laundering Act, pati ang National Internal Revenue Code, pati ang Data Privacy Act ay confidential din. Pero kung titingnan po natin, klaro po at malinaw po sa amin ang batas at ang utos ng saligang batas sa impeachment court na ito. You have the sole exclusive power to determine an impeachable offense, and that includes the power to find out, ferret the entire truth, and make your decision on that basis. I will not dwell on the exception to Republic Act 1405. That's very clear. There's an exception for impeachment. Pero paano naman po yung sinasabi nilang Section 8A ng Anti-Money Laundering Law? If you read that law, particularly that provision, it clearly refers to prohibiting leaks by members of the Anti-Money Laundering Council. It never was intended to short-circuit the impeachment process or limit the powers of this honorable court to find out the truth. Ganon din po ang nakalagay sa ating National Internal Revenue Code. Sabi po ng defense, there's nothing that allows these documents to be made public. I cite Section 71, NIRC. After the assessment shall have been made, I'll just move forward. The returns, together with any corrections, shall be filed in the office of the commissioner, and I quote, and shall constitute public records and be open to inspection as such upon the order of the President. And in fact, during the Corona impeachment trial, the President at that time did order, and that is why this court admitted the BIR documents. Your Honors, madaling sabihin na confidential ang ilang impormasyon at dokumento. Madaling magturo ng batas. Pero ang hinahanap po ng impeachment court ngayon at sa mga susunod na araw, linggo at buwan ay ang katotohanan. At ang layunin ay makamit ang pananagutan. Confidentiality, Your Honor, should not be the prevailing principle in this proceeding. Hindi po confidential ang katotohanan. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Representative, the Honorable Chel Jokno. Attorney Poa, counsel for respondent, is recognized for his rebuttal. Sir, you have 13 minutes.
Thank you, sir. I will not take up the entire time to expedite matters. Your Honors, I respect, of course, the arguments put forth by the distinguished opposing counsel. But when it comes to due process, Your Honors, I think it's beyond debate, no, that due process must be observed in every stage of the proceedings. And aside from that, due process requires, Your Honor, that we also respect the protections afforded by law on the respondent. Your Honors, ang sabi po ng ating distinguished opposing counsels, obiter lang daw po yung sinabi ng Supreme Court. But Your Honors, nung sinabi ng Supreme Court sa Duterte versus House of Representatives na ang impeachable offense is an act or omission that is committed by a public officer while occupying an impeachable office, hindi naman po siguro pwede doon lang sa yung one-third mode gamitin yung ganong definition, pero pagdating po sa ibang mode ay hindi na po applicable yung ganong definition. Your Honors, in fact, in that decision, which I failed to mention earlier, sinabi rin po that the acts or omissions must be done in relation to the office. Kasi yun nga po ang purpose ng impeachment. Next, Your Honors, yung sinasabi na dapat kahit na may mga prohibition sa batas, pwede pa rin nating masapina para ma-examine. Your Honors, it is the wisdom of Congress kaya po may ganong mga prohibitions against disclosure under the law. kung papayagan po natin that a court process, even an impeachment court, can issue a subpoena to thwart those provisions, it's as if, Your Honor, we are doing judicial legislation here because a judicial issuance can easily repeal for the time being that provision, or at least suspend, Your Honor. Maybe not repeal. The proper word might be suspend that provision of law. I've never heard about that, Your Honors. And then, lastly, Your Honors, parati nating sinasabi rin, no? Two points. Yung nabanggit na Section 71. I agree po under the tax code that Section 71 provides that if the President orders, then nawawala na po yung confidentiality. However, Your Honors, even given that there's an order from the President, I think we should still think about the relevance. Para saan ba ine-examine yung mga dokumento? Hindi ba para sa impeachment proceeding? Hindi po namin sinasabi na kung sakaling nagkamali man ang Vice Presidente, kung sakaling may paglabag man sa batas ang Vice Presidente noon, ay hindi na pwedeng maparusahan. Marami naman pong paraan. You can file cases against the Vice President for those infractions, preterm infractions. Pero pag impeachment po ang pinag-uusapan, we are limited to what impeachable offenses are. And again, the Supreme Court is clear about that. Your Honors, there's also a repeated citation of the Corona case. But we would just like to point out that the Corona case was tried, decided upon way before Duterte versus HOR. And Your Honors, since it was decided before Duterte versus HOR, the Supreme Court was fully cognizant of what happened in the Corona trial. And yet, Your Honors, they imposed these guidelines. In fact, the line itself in the Duterte versus HOR is we clarify, I quote, we clarify the constitutional requirements of impeachment. At kasama doon yung nabanggit namin kanina on what constitutes an impeachable offense. And that is very clear. Marahil, sinasabi natin na yon ay isang obiter, pero Your Honors, paano po magiging obiter yon? Kung yun mismo ang itinakbo ng desisyon. The fact that the one-year bar was triggered was only the effect of not abiding by the due process clause of the Constitution. And lastly, again, Your Honors, we do not disagree with the prosecution in terms of accountability. Again, no one is above the law, but no one should also be deprived of the protection given by law, Your Honors. Thank you.
Bago mag-recess ang mga senator judges para mag-usap sa caucus, nais kong sambitin sa record na binabati ko ang magkabilang panig, partikular si Congressman the Honorable Chel Jokno, gayon din si Attorney Poa, sa isang mahinahon, malumanay, maginoo at magalang na diskurso at debate kaugnay sa may tuturing nating kontrobersyal na isyong ito. At inaasahan ko, yan din ang magaganap sa caucus at sa aming pagbabalik matapos nito. Senator Judge Alan Cayetano is recognized.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Very eloquently said. Before we go to our favorite subject, recess, the prosecutor was going to say something about Monday witness. Can we hear that? Because if I don't want to preempt, but can we hear that? Because if they're not going to have witnesses on Monday, I have a proposal.
I'm sure they will. They were, in fact, on the verge of announcing it.
No, because, Mr. President, this is what I wanted to say. We do need the caucus, but after hearing both sides, I really have many questions, and I think we should really dapat mahimay. But after hearing them, I think there's a couple of issues we will agree on, but I'd rather ask my questions on Monday. So if everyone agrees, then we can caucus but allow them to adjourn, no? Unless someone wants to ask after our caucus.
We will hear the lead prosecutor. However, Senator Judge Cayetano, it is the predisposition of the presiding officer, given that we don't have any witnesses today, to settle this matter and this issue today.
That's
It's the only matter for us to discuss anyway.
That's my point, Senator Judge. No, I'm reviewing the rules. Hindi naman tayo tatagal pag per legal issue kasi nakalagay naman not more than 2 minutes eh. So, meaning for example, for me issuing the subpoena is not one issue. Whether the subpoena is to the VP or to her husband is two separate issue. Peso account or dollar account is a separate issue. Whether or not the company's accounts, etc., should be subpoena is a different issue. But for me to decide, I want to ask the prosecution and the defense about that. So medyo mahaba-haba talaga.
To answer the Senator Judge, we have a precedent that I think, if I remember correctly, it involves the good gentleman himself. When then Senate President Enrile made a ruling with respect to the request for the issuance of a subpoena against the former Chief Justice Corona and his family, the gentleman agreed with respect to not issuing the subpoena against the Chief Justice, but disagreed with respect to not issuing with the family.
No,
And
I
the
was
ruling of the
I was
chair-
correct there. That was the first. The rules of court says pwede pagka son-in-law, but I was overruled by Senator
Exactly.
Enrile. I appealed. The body agreed with him. So even if I was correct, I was overruled. But my point is, Mr. Presiding Officer, that was one simple issue. That's why I didn't argue. I'm saying this seems to be like 2 subpoenas. But there are several subject matters, AMLA, etc. And remember, this is Article 2. What's our assumption? August or September pa to iti-take up eh. So I'm just saying, so for example, no, we all agree on the ruling. It benefits one side. We should tell them why we ruled that way so that if they file a motion for reconsideration or they go to the Supreme Court, malinaw din yung ruling natin doon. There are substantive issues here. There are some issues as eloquently said by Congressman Shel Jokno. Alangan namang bago ako ng stand kung pare-pareho yung issue about let's say bank account. So you know my vote on that, di ba? But my vote on Chief Justice Corona doesn't mean it's the same vote if it was on his spouse and the companies that are under his name. I can tell you honestly right now, I don't know what to vote for, what my vote will be. But I do know that these are 2 important issues. Even the definition of definiteness and the definition of fishing expedition, I want to pursue that with them.
With the permission
Your
of
Honor,
Senator
sir.
Judge Allen, can we discuss that in caucus?
Yes, yes. So I'm just saying, if we're going to discuss it and maraming magtatanong, do you want them to go home and we can extend till Thursday next week or whatever?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
We can advise
I
them
submit
properly
to the presiding
at the
officer.
appropriate time. Senator Judge Pangilinan.
No, just to reiterate the earlier manifestation of the presiding officer, we agreed to go on caucus after the presentation
Yes.
after the oral argument. So let us stick to the agreement, Mr. President, Mr. Presiding Officer. Thank you.
Umaasa pa rin ako na magiging mahinahon yung caucus.
So we move to
Chair declares a recess. We will advise the parties as to what time we will most likely finish once we know that we are in the process of winding up. In the meantime, kindly relax and study the next witnesses you will be presenting. Trial is on recess.